Baby, you know you're the one for me, and all I want to be is you and me and her simultaneous, you and me and you simultaneous, 2 or 3 simultaneous loving, baby. Woo, come on, have an open mind, pull my trigger down, give me the last cold turkey brass, make it fast, take my ass to town. Now have an open mind, send my cares away, ring my bell, you fat pig. Oh, well, what the hell? Today's your lucky day. I'm talking about you and me, simultaneous you and me, and Winona Ryder, simultaneous streaming, baby. We're streaming in all sorts of places today because any of us could get taken down because we are trying to discuss politics in a society poisoned by capitalism. Welcome to WYCD Wicked. My name, that stands for What You Can Do. My name is Jake, the proud and mighty balding eagle. How are y'all doing today? Oh, Lordy Lou, we've got folks. Hello, HBX, good to see ya. Groove Dragon, hello. Mitzel Perk 30, Mamdani for the win. I hope so. I mean, I certainly hope so. I don't want to jinx it. Natchikit, hello. Legend of Sean, classic chef song, indeed. Yeah, and on that note, we are streaming on this space as well. There's a show going on. There's spacers from, what have I done? There's spacers from all over the internet who are covering this tonight. Your hub for debate coverage is This Space TV on YouTube. So if you're watching from here, thank you. And if you get sick of me, go to This Space TV and you can find somebody else who is streaming. What now? What in the wide world of sports are we doing here? What have I put there? Anyway, we're going to watch as the two branches of the Democratic Party go to war against each other. You could not have two finer examples of the extremes of the Democrats. You've got Cuomo, you've got Mamdani, and it looks like they're actually starting. So we're going to jump right in.
Scores up, more jobs in New York City.
Now we're getting maybe a little over the average headline length, but
optimism high.
Thank you. Mr. Sliwa.
Curtis Sliwa is without his iconic red beret because I'm talking to the people of New York City about the really serious issues of affordability, the cost of living, and obviously what I spent most of my life doing, which is public safety in the streets and the subways.
We would love a headline from you. What will your headline be, your big headline, and your number one as mayor?
Curtis Sliwa exceeds all expectations and looks very mayoral tonight.
Mr. Mamdani, you've had some time to think about it now. What's your
Not
headline?
ambitious.
It's a pleasure to be here, first of all, and I really
Expectations.
want to thank the moderators and the opportunity to speak directly to New Yorkers about this moment in time and our opportunity to transform the most expensive city in the United States of America. The headline would read in about a year, Mamdani continues to take on Trump, delivers on affordability agenda for New Yorkers.
Thank you, Mr. Mamdani. Sally?
Thank you, Melissa.
In a year, that was.
We're going to talk about leadership. Voters have reservations about all three of you as chief executive of New York City, a city with roughly 300,000 employees and a budget bigger than many countries. We have questions for each of you, and Mr. Cuomo, we will begin with you. As a former governor of New York, you obviously have the management experience, but you resigned from office amid sexual harassment and COVID-related
Sliwa nodding?
scandals. Why should voters now trust that you have the character to be mayor? You have 1 minute.
Good. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for the question.
The character, Mayor.
First, you are right. I left office. There was a report that was done that had allegations of harassment. I said at the time it was a political report and that there was no basis to it. It was then sent to 5 district attorneys. They all reviewed it. They found nothing. It was then litigated for 5 years. I was dropped from the cases. So none of that came to anything. When it comes to executive experience, I've run the Department of Housing and Urban Development, built housing all across the nation. I was governor for 11 years. The budget is double what it is in the city. And
How much do you want to bet that part of that his lawyers argued in court? Well, he's already lost his job. His political career is already sank, so you can't punish him anymore. Okay, we'll drop
Look
it.
at the failed mayors, they're ones that had
2 years
no
later,
management
it was
experience. Don't do it again.
argued in court, and they let it go.
Serena?
Thank you, Sally. In the theme of leadership, Mr. Mamdani, you work as a foreclosure prevention counselor for a winning seat in the state assembly. You have no substantial management experience. How are you ready to lead the nation's largest and greatest city in the world in one day? You have a minute.
You know, I have the experience of having served in the New York State Assembly for 5 years and watching a broken political system, the experience of seeing a governor in Andrew Cuomo who would rather have served his billionaire donors and the working class New Yorkers who voted for him, and the experience amidst all of that of fighting and winning for working class taxi drivers to free them from predatory debt and delivering the first free bus lines in New York City history, and in working with unions and working class New Yorkers to finally raise taxes just that little bit on Mr. Cuomo's donors to start to fully fund our public school. And more than that, I have the experience of being a New Yorker, someone who has actually paid rent in the city before I ran for mayor, someone who has had to wait for a bus that never came, someone who actually buys his groceries in this same city. And what all of that experience has shown me, which Mr. Cuomo can't seem to understand, is that it is far too expensive and far too hard for New Yorkers to afford to live in this city. And the definition of experience is not doing the same thing again and again and hoping for a different result. That's actually the definition of insanity.
Thank you, Mr.
No, it
Mamdani.
is not.
If I can, I think I was invoked.
Yes.
In other words, what the Assemblyman said is he has no experience.
So for the record, that's
And
not
this
the
is not a
definition of
job for
insanity.
someone who has no
That's a thing that
management
annoys
experience
me.
to run 300,000 people, no financial experience to run $115 billion budget.
But
He
that was
literally has never
otherwise an
had a
excellent
job.
answer.
On his resume, it says he
Because-
interned for his mother. This is not a job for a first-timer. Any day,
So he has had a job that was discussed earlier. He was an alderman. He was many other things throughout his life. But Mamdani beautifully pointed out that Cuomo did not pay rent in New York before deigning to run the place. In other words, this could not be a more stark contrast. Cuomo considers himself to be of the ruling class. He's a product of basically American royalty. His father was a beloved governor before him, so he's been basically carried on his father's ghost shoulders this entire time.
that died in this state and across this nation.
But just to be clear,
That's-
just to fact check that, there is a criminal investigation reportedly underway at the DOJ about your testimony to Congress about your nursing home record.
Yeah, but that is a political issue with the Congress. They made a referral, which has gone absolutely nowhere. But there have been multiple investigations.
Nope, this is something progressives
where the
are
DOJ
fine with.
found that the nursing home investigation was
The
politically
allegations
motivated.
Okay, we're going to
Cuomo's
move on. We
friends
might have time to come
profited
back to it. I do need to move on to
him
Mr.
May I just
killing
Sliwa.
finish
people's
my
parents.
rebuttal?
Those are
But
serious
The
allegations.
Assemblyman still says he has no experience to
Oh my
do the
gosh.
job.
Okay,
Yes, Nadja.
thank you, Mr. Cuomo. Mr. Sliwa, as founder of
let's
the Guardian Angels
Institute
and
rating.
as a radio
Terrible.
host,
Sliwa,
you've been a
just
well-known
awful.
figure in New York City for decades. But you also
Tie
lack
is too
substantial
tight.
management
It's
experience.
too
So
bright
how
to
are
go
you
with that dark
prepared to be
suit.
the chief
They don't
executive
clash in a way that's
officer of New York
pleasing.
City?
They
You
clash
have
in a way
1
that's
minute, Mr.
confusing.
Sliwa.
Also,
First of all, I
suit
created the
jacket's
Guardian
so rude.
Angels to provide public safety in the subways and streets when government was incapable of doing so. I didn't do it to get a title or a paycheck. Secondarily, I don't declare myself to be all-knowing. I will hire the best in their fields who have dedicated.
Al Pacino, you need to shut the fuck up. I'm only here because I have no access to TV. I'm muting it now, partially to ignore you. Al Pacino, I don't have the right to broadcast this without changing it significantly. I'm adding commentary. You're watching a commentary stream. If I shut the fuck up, it will cease to be a commentary stream. You understand? So no, I will not, and I cannot. And you will be disappointed if you I hope you like my commentary, though.
They have helped create this crime crisis in the city that we face, and I will
Thank you,
resolve.
Mr. Sliwa.
Thank you, Mr. Sliwa. Candidates, President Trump has expressed intense interest in this
right.
election
Think
and
you're a
in
great
all of you
host.
personally.
A great
Mr.
suit.
Mamdani, the president called you, quote, my little communist. Mr. Sliwa, he said you're, quote, not exactly prime time.
Cuomo actually. has
Mr.
the
Cuomo,
best
he has been critical of you, but said you have always gotten along. The president has threatened to cut federal funds to the city. And just yesterday, he killed the Gateway Project, the tunnel connecting New York to New Jersey. You've all promised to resist him in some way. What would you say in your first official call with the president to set the tone for your relationship moving forward? We'll give you a minute for this. We'll start with you, Mr. Mamdani.
I would make it clear to the president that I am willing to not only speak to him, but to work with him if it means delivering on lowering the cost of living for New Yorkers. That's something that he ran his presidential campaign on, and yet all he's been able to deliver thus far has been prosecuting his political enemies and trying to enact the largest deportation program in American history. And what distinguishes me from Andrew Cuomo is the fact that he has gotten on the phone with that same president, not asking him how to work together to help New Yorkers, or not telling him that he would refuse to back down to protect those New Yorkers, but instead asking him how to win this race. That's something I can do myself. I don't need the president's assistance for. And what I'd tell the president is if he ever wants to come for New Yorkers in the way that he has been, he's going to have to get through me as the next mayor of this city.
All right, Mr. Cuomo, we'll give you a little extra time, but I'd like you to answer this question as well, what your first conversation with the president would be like.
Okay. First, I never had a conversation with the president that the Assemblyman was talking about.
Tapping into Cory Booker there.
But he's has a distant relationship with the truth. I would say to the president in the first conversation, look, we have had many, many battles. We fought together every day during.
Oh, I can pause it. All right. You know what? I found a way to get the best of both worlds. I'll add commentary and let you listen to it uninterrupted, presuming that I one day discover where the boundaries of the green screen are. So let's pause here for a moment and discuss who these people are and what you have been seeing so far, what you are going to continue to see. These two people are representatives of the of either end of the two major factions of the Democratic Party. Up there, you've got the Democrats who have been in charge basically for our whole lives. You have something called a neoliberal. Now, a neoliberal is essentially a conservative Democrat. They're Reaganites, you might say. They ironically have a very loose relationship with the truth. They're very good at talking amongst the upper classes. They're the sophisticated types, the educated liberals. But they're not educated so well that they actually understand political theory or economic theory. They just know who the accepted, the socially accepted quote unquote lefties are. But they're pro big business and they're anti-consumer and they're anti I mean, the voters don't really think about politics, and the politicians don't really think about the voters. That's the best way I can describe the centrist Democrats, aka neoliberals, aka the Democrats everybody hates. Everybody who says they hate Democrats on the right end up describing neoliberals. On the other hand, you have Mamdani, and this is something to look forward to in this coming response. With Mamdani, you've got somebody whose parents is a literal movie star, and yet he is a socialist, basically, which means that his politics are very progressive. But he does have the ability to walk amongst or walk within the same circles Cuomo does, because he comes from fancy people, basically. All right.
Second Avenue subway to 125th Street. It was a promise made to Harlemites
Okay, well,
decades ago.
Okay.
It's time to
Now
actually
I've learned.
fulfill it.
Thank you, Mr. Mamdani.
Okay,
Let's-
quick question
Do I get 50?
quick question for each of you. Mr. Cuomo, you've been asked this
He
before.
mentioned my name. Don't I get a chance to respond?
Well, we got a lot of ground to cover, Ms. Lee.
right, could I
When was the last
respond?
time you spoke with President Trump, Mr. Cuomo? You've been asked this before, and the last time you said you couldn't remember.
I believe it was during his assassination attempt.
So last year in 2024. Mr. Sliwa, when was the last time
laugh
you
at that,
spoke
but I
with
did.
President Trump?
Oh, many years ago, we were receiving awards. I was praising him for saving the annual Veterans Day parade. Those were the conversations that I had with him. Can I
Mamdani,
please
have you-
respond? I was asked about the Q train.
Okay, real
Mr.
quick.
Mamdani?
I am the mayor of mass transit. We do not need a Q train. I'm in the subways every day. We have
We
more
need-
than a capable system of
Moderators
transporting
with
people.
Thank you, Mr. Sliwa.
The infrastructure needs to
Just
be
cut his
fixed
mic.
in the system that we have.
Thank you,
Mr. Mamdani, have you ever spoken with President Trump?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Sally.
Thank you. Mr. Cuomo, a
You
follow-up
see,
to that.
a
President
lack
Trump
of
has
bullshit
spoken
is
positively
lovely.
about you and your candidacy, even as his Justice Department, as we've noted, is reportedly investigating you
This
for
is an
allegations you lied to Congress
anti-advertisement.
over your COVID record. Given that dynamic, how would you be able to stand up to this White House?
this
How are you
Roxy
not
late?
compromised? And just take into account that New Yorkers are troubled by what they view as a compromised relationship the current outgoing mayor has with the president.
Yeah, first, you're wrong when you say there's any investigation of me. That's not true.
Do you have evidence there is no
I've heard
investigation?
absolutely nothing. Congress did a press release. They said they sent a letter to the Department of Justice, which they do routinely to generate press, and that's what that is. I fought Donald Trump. He investigated me repeatedly with the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice Inspector General said that it was actually politically motivated. That does not back me up. When I'm fighting for New York, I am not going to stop. And I'll tell you something else. If the Assemblyman is elected mayor, Donald Trump will take over
We
New
have
York
to-
City,
Common.
and it will be Mayor Trump.
So this is a common thing they do. It's rhetoric, but he didn't say specifically what he would do, just that he would resist.
Heard absolutely nothing.
They could be, and you might not have heard it, but okay, we'll move on. David?
Okay, thank you, Sally.
That is virtually
Candidate-
impossible, by the way.
Okay.
So, Mr.
All right.
Cuomo, you did put out an ad the day after the news first broke in the New York Times that you were under investigation, calling it a political investigation, saying they were coming after you as they had
do
to.
have to acknowledge, though,
after
Cuomo
other
has the
Democratic
best suit
politicians.
and
You haven't
tie
denied
combo
this
here.
That the
previously.
Republican
Crisp as
Congress
hell.
was. Yes.
Oh,
I
and
believe
French
they
cuffs.
play
Look at
politics
that.
with the
French
justice
cuffs.
system.
God
I
dang.
believe the Republican Congress does it. I believe Donald
Okay.
Trump does it. I believe
Okay.
the
He
effed up.
Democrats
He's
do it.
too fancy.
And that's why I think people are sick and
Thank you,
tired.
Mr.
He looks like
of
he's
the
going
justice
to a
system and the
cocktail party.
politics.
If you
Thank you, Mr.
think that
Cuomo.
there's no difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, then that's the candidate for you. If you think it's time to have a Democratic Party that actually stands up to Donald Trump and his billionaire back
All right,
assault
thank
on
you.
working people,
Well, first
Thank you,
that's
Mr.
the
Mamdani.
candidate.
You're
Candidates, we have
you're
to-
not a Democrat,
Candidates,
right?
we
You're
have-
not a Democrat. You're a Democratic
All right,
socialist.
candidates, we have
You didn't
other
vote for
ground-
Kamala Harris, right?
We
This
have other
is
ground to cover. No, we have other
No,
ground to
that's-
cover.
that's an
will circle back
incendiary
that.
charge. I wanna be very-
You may have a
This
chance to
is
address it,
huge.
but we do.
I'll be
we have
very
a lot
quick.
of issues to get to with New Yorkers.
We're gonna let him argue. Basically, they are not even close to the same party.
Americans, I was horrified
Okay,
by the
Mr.
Israeli
Mamdani,
genocide
all
of
right.
Palestinians.
Okay.
And if you want to look for me on the ballot, you'll find me as the
Okay,
Democrat.
Mr. Mamdani, thank you. We have to move on.
Okay, so basically, the important thing there is that Cuomo accused Mamdani of not being a Democrat. And so he's essentially saying a Democrat socialist is less of a Democrat than what I am, a neoliberal. I think the opposite is true, especially when you actually discuss what the principles, what the guiding goals of these philosophies are. Neoliberal is business first, people never. People only if they help business. That's what a neoliberal is, and that's what Cuomo is. I think Mamdani is actually closer to what Democrats claim to be, and Cuomo is what Democrats are.
Opinions about the future of Hamas and Israel, beyond the question of justice and safety, and the fact that anything has to abide by international law, and that applies to Hamas, and that.
This whole line of questioning is racist. They are only asking the candidate for mayor of New York, as in local politics, what they think about a war happening overseas because this guy's Muslim and it's Muslims getting massacred.
In the state who called for a ceasefire. And calling for a ceasefire means ceasing fire. That means all parties have to cease fire and put down their weapons. And the reason that we call for that is not only for the end of the genocide, but also an unimpeded access of humanitarian aid. I, like many New Yorkers, am hopeful that this ceasefire will hold. I'm hopeful that it is durable. I'm hopeful that it is just.
Only
And for
put
it
so
to be
much
just,
lipstick on a
we also
pig.
have to ensure that it addresses the conditions that preceded this, conditions like occupation, like the siege, and apartheid. And that is what I'm hopeful for.
Yeah. If I may, that means
Excuse
from
me,
the river
excuse
to
me.
the sea.
I'm being marginalized
When he-
out of this.
I'm sorry, when he
It's
goes-
a debate of three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Andrew. It's
Well,
a
I'm just
debate
saying-
of three. Do we acknowledge
ahead.
that? Three people?
Mr. Sliwa, go ahead, and we'll give you a second. Go ahead, Mr. Sliwa.
The President of the United States should have been applauded by you, Zoran Mamdani, and you, Andrew Cuomo,
F off.
on the day that he brought together that international coalition that met in Egypt, that came from the Middle East and the Persian Gulf. I certainly applauded him for bringing peace to Gaza and trying to end the hostilities in the war between the
Trump has
Israelis
not
and
done
Hamas,
that.
so there can be peace
Correct.
between the Israelis and peace between the
But I hope
Palestinians.
that's what happened.
But you seem, Zoran, to be
Okay.
incapable of praising our president.
Okay.
And Andrew,
Sliwa.
you were
He's a
incapable
liar
of
and a
praising
literal
Gentlemen, we have
murderer.
Give credit where credit
He's
is due.
murdering
He's brought
Venezuelans
peace to Gaza.
today.
Gentlemen, we want to
He's a
hear everything you have to say.
murderer.
We have other
No.
questions on this matter. Mr. Cuomo, please, brief response, because
Yes.
we do have other questions
Yes.
on this issue that you may be able to
Yes,
address. Go ahead.
I did applaud President Trump and his administration. I think it was a great accomplishment. I hope the peace holds. The assemblyman will not denounce Hamas. The assemblyman will not denounce Hassan Piker, who said America
Very
deserved
racist
9/11.
to
The
insist
assemblyman
he
just said in his
denounce,
response, well, it depends
Hamas.
on occupation. That is code, meaning that Israel does not have a right to exist as a Jewish state, which he has never
That's a
acknowledged.
straight-up lie,
That
and
is
it's
from the
interesting
river
that he's
to the
saying it
sea.
well
That's why
Mamdani
he
can
won't
address
denounce
it. That's
globalize the
weakness, actually.
Intifada,
Mamdani
which
better
means
jump on
kill
this, though.
all Jews.
Let's give Mr. Mamdani a chance.
It
to
does not
respond to
mean
that.
those things.
I want to be
and now
very
he
clear.
gets
The
to expose that.
occupation is a reference to international law and the violation of it, which Mr. Cuomo has no regard for since he signed up to
Be
be
very
Benjamin
clear,
Netanyahu's
Cuomo
legal
just
defense
lied.
team
You
during
gotta
the course
say
of
that,
this
dude.
genocide. And
lied
I
to you.
find the
Say that.
comments that Hassan made on 9/11 to be objectionable and reprehensible.
Stop
And
defending
I also
yourself
think
and
that
attack
part of the
Cuomo.
reason why
Cuomo
Democrats
lied.
are in the situation that we are in, of being a permanent minority in this country, is we are looking only to speak to journalists and streamers and Americans with whom we agree of every single thing that they say. We
Say
need
Cuomo
to
lied,
take the
you
case
moron.
to every person, and I'm happy to do that, which is why I was on Fox News yesterday talking about how I wish it was more
This
like
is the most
NASCAR, so
terrible
we could
answer.
see all the billionaires who are sponsoring
Okay,
you
Mr. Mamdani,
right on your
thank
suit
you.
jacket.
Awful
Melissa
answer.
has another
We're going to
question.
turn it to Sally, actually.
Yeah, actually, this kind of flows, and then we'll go back to Melissa.
So here's why that was a terrible. Oh, fuck it. All right.
Speech. Your words about this war have comforted many New Yorkers, but they've troubled others, and I want to ask about some of this. There is your recent refusal, as we just discussed, to condemn the slogan, globalize the Intifada, which many view as a call to arms.
Yeah,
In
all he had to
2017,
say right then is
you wrapped
Cuomo
lyrics
just
praising
lied
the
to
Holy
you
Land
about
Five
what
to
I
men who
believe.
were
I
convicted
don't
of
believe
supporting
Israel
terrorism.
doesn't have a right to exist.
How would
That's
you
something
assure New
Cuomo
Yorkers,
just made up.
especially Jewish
And if he's
residents who
lying
might
to you
be
about
concerned
this,
about
what else
this,
is he
that you
lying
would
to
be a
you
mayor
about?
for all?
I
You have 1 minute
suggest
to answer
everything
this.
because
you
the
for this
truth doesn't
opportunity.
matter to Mr. Cuomo. That's
When
what you
I
say. You don't sit there
I'm
saying,
speaking about the responsibility of leading this city.
So
I've
get
been
up there
leading
and call
not just
Cuomo a
those
liar, because
who
that's
voted
what he
for me.
just did to the nation.
Leading not just those who vote, but leading every single person who calls this city home. And that includes Jewish New Yorkers. And I have been so thankful for the opportunity I've had to sit with so many Jewish New Yorkers over the course of the primary and through the general. And it's in those conversations that I learned that this phrase evokes many painful memories. Memories of bus attacks in Haifa, of restaurant attacks in Jerusalem. And I heard from a rabbi about their roommate who was killed on one of those buses. And in hearing that and the distance between that impact and the rationale that some use of saying it, of speaking about the Israeli occupation of Palestinian land, is why I said that I would discourage this language that I do not use. And what I'm looking to do as the first Muslim mayor of this city is to ensure that we bring every New Yorker together. Jewish New Yorkers, Muslim New Yorkers, every single person that calls this city home, that they understand they won't just be protected, but they will belong.
Mr. Sliwa, we will get to you. First, I'm going to ask a question of Mr. Cuomo. While you are a strong supporter of Israel, you have also been slow to develop a relationship with the city's Muslim community. You have called Mr. Mamdani a terrorist sympathizer. How do you assure those New Yorkers, especially Muslims and Arabic New Yorkers, that you will be a mayor for all? You'll have 1 minute.
Yeah, well, first, I think the Assemblyman created the perception himself. Why wouldn't he condemn Hamas? Why wouldn't he condemn Hassan Piker? Why did it take us here tonight for the first time for him to say it? He still won't denounce, globalize the Intifada, which means kill all Jews. Just say, I denounce it. He won't do it. That's the issue. And his divisiveness
can you address the question
is
that we're putting to
chronic.
you?
Yeah,
I think
that
you've
is
made
not
the
what
point,
that
but
means.
can you please
And if
answer about your
Mamdani
own
fails to
relationship with the
address
Muslim
that,
community? You
we
did
might
not
be in
visit
trouble.
mosques for many years. More recently, you have been.
That's somebody
I don't
else's
think-
job to
I'm-
call that out.
I don't
It's our
think in
job.
any way the Assemblyman
He's our
is
guy. He's gotta call
representative
that out.
of the Muslim community, which is a vital community.
Globalize the Intifada does not mean kill all Jews. That is a lie Cuomo just told, and it hurts us. It hurts us if that lie is allowed to stand. So let's see what Mamdani can do. Cuomo's answer right now is nonsense.
And it's two totally separate things.
Mr. Mamdani, you want to respond?
You know, it took Andrew Cuomo being beaten by a Muslim candidate in the Democratic primary for him to set foot in a mosque. He had more than 10 years, and he couldn't name a single mosque at the last debate we had that he visited. And what Muslims want in this city is what every community wants and deserves. They want equality, and they want respect. And it took me to get you to even see those Muslims as part of this city. And that, frankly, is something that is shameful and is why so many New Yorkers have lost faith in this politics.
Yeah, except
You know,
that is totally false. I worked with the Muslim community for many years.
Name a single mosque you went to when you were the governor. Can you name a single mosque you went to in 10 years?
Before you were ever here. They were
Before I was here.
Before you were even in state government. I worked with the Muslim community.
Yeah.
Imams presided over State of the States. We worked in religious working groups, tolerance
visit a
groups,
mosque.
anti-Semitic groups, et cetera.
All right, gentlemen. Mr. Sliwa, Rosarita has a specific question for you, but I'll give you a second here just to weigh in.
This is what disturbs me about you. You will be celebrating your birthday this weekend. In 1991, I was in the streets of Crown Heights with the Guardian Angels for 30 days and 30 nights when the first Democratic Socialist mayor of New York City, that's right, David Dinkins, was a proud member of the Democratic Socialists of America, abandoned the Jews for 3 days. They were left to their own means. And we protected them for 30 days and 30 nights.
I have been assaulting minorities for 40 years. What have you been doing, Mamdani? What have you been doing? I have been attacking brown people in the street unprovoked for 40 years. I should be mayor.
You are going to be there for them when they are victims of anti-Semitic attacks.
Okay. Brief response, Mr. Mamdani. We have a specific question for you from Rosarita, but Mr. Mamdani, please.
I agree,
Thank
by
you.
the way.
One of the most meaningful experiences I've had over the course of this campaign has been the conversations I've had with Jewish New Yorkers. Jewish New Yorkers who've told me about the door that they've had to lock that they had kept open for 40 years. Jewish New Yorkers who've told me on the M57 about an apartment the speech therapist was trying to sell when a realtor told her, put the Jewish books off the table. Jewish New Yorkers who've told me about their fear in living in this city. And I will be a mayor who finally addresses that, not through the theatrics of the politics on this stage, but through action. I'll do that by ensuring that we have police officers outside of synagogues and the high holy days.
Gentlemen, we have a lot to get to, and we do have a specific question for Mr. Sliwa. Rosarina.
Thank you, David. Mr. Sliwa, you've called for tougher policing of pro-Palestinian protests, and you've suggested that Mr. Mamdani uses languages that is anti-Semitic. How do you assure New Yorkers that you'll be
I
the
have
mayor
always
for
been
all?
against freedom of speech.
Well, I've been there for all people in all times for
anti-Brown.
46 years as leader of the Guardian Angels here and around the world. Whether it
next
is a
votum.
religious violation
tight
of
tie.
people's rights to worship as they choose in a mosque, in a church, in a synagogue, or a shul, whether it's because of racial identity. Remember, in the summer of 2020,
I'm gonna
Asians
pause
were
this
under
film
constant.
back for a second. Buffy's Hellmouth TV. We don't need a Muslim mayor, period. This guy is a clown. What they are doing to Sliwa right now is messed up. Give him time to talk. Buffy, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings here, and nobody else talk to Buffy for a second. Genuinely, Buffy, do you consider yourself a bigot? Please answer in the comments, because you led with we don't need a Muslim mayor, and that is so disturbing to me. That's your criticism, his religion. Do you consider yourself a bigot? Please let me know. And if so, what are your general thoughts on bigotry? Why is it okay to judge somebody harshly for their religious views?
We tolerate no hatred, no discrimination. We are from every place on this globe, and
Unless
we are
it's
proud
you
of
that's
it.
perpetrating it.
Excuse me, and we're tolerant and we accept. If you notice, the assemblyman still won't say he believes that Israel has the right to exist as a Jewish state. He is a divisive personality all across the board. NYPD are racist. Barack Obama is evil, liar, and he gave the finger to the
Okay.
Christopher
All right,
Columbus
we're gonna
statue.
have
By
to
the
move
way,
on right now.
Cuomo, your laws with no cash bail
All right,
turn the
Mr.
haters
Sliwa,
right
thank
back
you
in the
very
street
much. You
to
have
violate
changed.
and attack
Mr.
again and
Sliwa,
again and again.
thank you
You're the
very
reason
much.
for that. No cash
Thank
bail.
you.
Yeah,
Thank
you
you.
don't know
I just-
what you're talking about.
Thank you. Go ahead.
There have been a number of absolutely unfounded lies that have been said by Andrew Cuomo. I would just like a moment to address them directly. I've said time and again that I recognize Israel's right to exist. I've said that I will not recognize any
As a Jewish
state's.
state.
I said that I will not.
As a Jewish state.
If I would be allowed to finish,
Okay.
that I would not recognize any state's right to exist with a system of hierarchy on the basis of race, of religion. I have made that very clear. And part of that is because I'm an American who believes in the importance of equal rights being enshrined in every single country, whether we're speaking about Israel or whether we're speaking about Saudi Arabia. You can stand here and you can lie all you
All right.
want, but
All
New
right.
Yorkers
All
know
right,
the
gentlemen,
truth.
we have
Answer the
to-
question.
Thank you.
We don't-
Acknowledged the lying. So look, let me give some credit. Buffy, Groove Dragon, you better not be talking to Buffy because I asked you not to. But Buffy, let me throw a bone your way. I think that was a good policy suggestion from Curtis Sliwa. Curtis Sliwa, the Republican running, said that there should be no cash bail. I agree. I think we should eliminate the cash bail system everywhere we can. Don't let it be said that there's nothing I will agree with Republicans on. In this case, I very much agree that the cash bail system should be ended. But I ask you the earlier question again, which I haven't seen you answer. Maybe you did and I missed it. If so, that's my mistake. But do you consider yourself a bigot, Buffy? Here we go. This is why I ask. We don't need a Muslim, you say. We don't need a Muslim to ruin our city. Do you consider yourself a bigot? I'm not trying to attack you. I genuinely am curious what your thoughts of yourself are. Because everybody who says stuff like this, when I've tried to figure out, do you consider yourself a bigot? Do you think bigotry is bad? Do you think racism is bad? They'll say, yes, I think those things are bad. No, I'm not those things. But we don't need a Muslim. We don't need a Mexican. We don't need a this. We don't need a that. They never want the label because somewhere deep down they know it's wrong. And I'm wondering, is that you? Do you understand that what you're doing right here is bigotry? We don't need a Muslim socialist mayor. You even you're educated enough to know that you capitalize the M there because it's a group of people. It's a religious belief. I'll tell you, I'm not very at ease having any religious fanatic in office. I'll acknowledge that, but I don't think he's a religious fanatic. I think he's Muslim in the same way your average Christian is Christian, which is to say, it's not the major part of his identity as far as public office goes.
NYPD is the answer. But the National Guard is not, he's not sending in the National Guard to do any real function. It's control, it's power. He's trying to say these Democrats don't know how to run these cities, and it's a political gesture by sending in the National Guard. He has said if
also
the
causing
Assemblyman is
violence.
Elected, he will take over New York.
tear gas
Forget the
people.
National Guard.
But this is
he
not
has
the
said, I'm
question.
going to take the
is,
funds.
if they order the troops to come here, what would
Yes,
you do?
well, I went through this with him. He sent the National Guard to 20 cities when I was governor. You know what city he didn't send them to? New York. Why? Because I said to him, don't you dare, we don't need it, and he backed down, and he will again.
So that proves a good relationship
Wait a
with the
second.
president.
The president is going to back down to you, Andrew Cuomo. I know you think you're the toughest guy alive, but let me tell you something. You lost your own primary, right? You were rejected by your Democrats.
Why
And you
didn't
have a
send the National
difficult
Guard?
understanding that what the term
All
no
right,
is.
all right.
You're
Okay.
not going to stand up to
Okay,
Donald
thank you.
Trump.
Thank you.
I agree with Curtis.
You're not going to stand up to Donald Trump.
Okay.
And he can't stand up to Donald
right
Trump,
to
who
left.
knocked
We have
him
a-
right
we have
on
a
his
follow-up.
toes.
Are my
Can I-
You
choice.
negotiate with him. You don't
Okay.
fight with him
Sliwa,
because
thank you.
only the people of New York.
Buffy, let me throw you another bone. I would vote for, in order, Mamdani number 1, Sliwa number 2, and then Cuomo. That's what a progressive tends to think of these folks. I would literally rather have Sliwa in office, the Republican, than Cuomo, the neoliberal Democrat. Consider that the next time you associate progressives with Democrats. We don't like most of them. Maybe as much or more than you don't like them.
Your NYPD handled protests, and would you continue participating in protests as mayor? You have 1 minute.
Well, I have been arrested oftentimes in civil disobedience. That is a great American right. But demonstrations have a time and a place. And it used to be before Bill de Blasio, I know he was your favorite mayor, Joe Mamdani, that you'd have to get a permit. There's a time period you were in a structured area. You get a sound permit. It could be turned around in a day. If there was going to be civil disobedience, you discussed it with the police department. And obviously, you had an opportunity of expressing your anger or your outrage at whatever it was that motivated you to sit down in the street, to block traffic or block an egress. Now we have rampaging groups that go running through the streets, that enter all kinds of facilities and violate other people's rights. And there's no one who's willing to stop it. When I'm the mayor, there are rules and regulations. Everybody has the right to demonstrate, but you can't violate other people's rights, or you yourself must be arrested. And I would remove the face coverings. Remove those face coverings. Why are you afraid of identifying who you are as a demonstrator, unless maybe you're an agent provocateur
Thank you,
who's
Mr.
been
Sliwa.
sent?
I'm okay with that if we apply it to ICE as
Goes
well.
to you, Mr.
No face
Mamdani.
coverage.
You were arrested for blocking traffic in a pro-Palestinian protest, and you participated in a sit-in
one.
at Grand Central. Protesters offered blocked streets, bridges, and hubs like Grand Central. How much of that would you allow as mayor, and what's your line in having the NYPD arrest protesters? You have a minute.
Protest is a part of what makes this city's history what it
he's in
is.
he's
It is
in
a
his
part of the
lane.
First Amendment. We deserve to have a mayor who stands up for that First Amendment, especially as we have a president that's looking to shred it at each and every opportunity. And we will continue to have protests in this city, as we should, no matter who is the mayor. And the line will be on the question of breaking the law. What we have today, however, is an attempt to intimidate so many who are looking to use that freedom of expression to share their opinions about the city and the world around them. And to be frank with you, what New Yorkers are looking for is someone who can show leadership in City Hall. Because when they don't see that leadership, that's when so many take to the streets. And if you had a leader like Andrew Cuomo, who was telling people not to overreact when they see ICE agents abducting girls as young as 6 years old to deport them, many New Yorkers will take to the streets. We deserve to have a leader who will actually be following through on the values of the city. That's the leader that I'll be.
Mr. Mamdani, just a quick follow-up. If you're elected, would you still participate in protests?
No, if I'm elected, I'll be the mayor, and I'll be leading the city from City Hall.
But no participation in protests, right?
The important thing is to lead from City Hall. That's what I'll be doing.
Yeah. If I may respond, because I believe my name was invoked.
A very brief response, and then I have a question for you.
I dealt with ICE. I stood up with ICE. I had a war with ICE here in New York when I was governor. And I stood them down, and they moved out. What the assemblyman is saying is he doesn't believe in law and order. He believes in defunding.
Don't say. If they ask you a yes or no question twice, just answer it. Will you still participate in protests? No.
Just 15 seconds, because we have a question for Mr. Cuomo.
Mr. Cuomo lies again and again and again. I am not running to defund the police. I am running to actually work with the police to deliver public safety. Andrew Cuomo says that he has stood up to ICE. He has not said a word about the abductions that are happening right now.
He's referring to a previous comment you made, and we will get back to this. But Mr. Cuomo, a question for you.
It's a comment he made. Is the operative
I said
language.
that. Yes,
Yeah,
I understand. I said that. As governor, you put the National Guard on standby during the George Floyd protests. You didn't deploy them. As mayor, talk about how you would balance the right to protest with maintaining order in the streets.
I was terrified of those blacks.
The right to protest is a sacred right. There is no doubt about that. But the law is the law also. And you have New Yorkers now who are afraid in this city. They're afraid of Donald Trump coming. They're afraid of that anarchy. And they're afraid of the anarchy in this city itself. We have to provide public safety that makes New Yorkers feel safe. Demonstration is one thing. Violating the law is something else. Blocking public transit is something else. Stopping students from going to class is something else. Harassment, intimidation, that's a hate crime. That's illegal. Enforce the law. Respect the police. They're not racists, as the assemblyman calls them. They're not a threat to public safety, as he says. They're not anti-queer. They are here to protect New Yorkers, work with them, fortify them.
You know, that's ironic that you say that now,
I'm sorry,
Andrew
Mr.
Cuomo, because when you were governor for 8 years, your parole board released 43 cop killers back into the street. Your father, when he was governor, released none. I knew Mario Cuomo. You know Mario Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo. You released cops. Don't say you're pro-police.
Do you want to respond briefly to the comments that Mr. Cuomo raised about things you've said about police? You can do a brief response to that.
I have been clear time and time again that as much as Andrew Cuomo wants to bring up tweets from 2020, which is around the same time that he was sending seniors to their death in nursing homes, I am looking to work with police officers, not to defund the NYPD, looking to ensure that officers can actually do one job when they're signing up to join that department.
But he's
not the many jobs we're asking them to do today.
He was specifically
with the mental
referring to
health
comments
crisis.
you made. We will come back to that, but we're out of time.
You said they are wicked and corrupt
Candidates,
and racist.
we're moving
That's
on.
what
Thank
you said.
you.
Your words, your words.
We're moving on. Thank you. Despite record low crime numbers, polls show that crime remains a top concern for New York City voters. The three of you have very different approaches to crime fighting and how to manage the NYPD. We want to get into your plans. So we'll start with this question. It's a two-part question, but it's short. How will you make the city safer? And how will you change the NYPD? You'll have 1 minute. We begin with Mr. Cuomo.
I would add 5,000. Well, let's take a step back. Remember what happened. The far left, the socialists said defund the police, defund the police. They took $1 billion out of the police. The NYPD is now down at one of the lowest levels in modern political
Cuomo during the summer of 2020. You said, if you don't reform police departments, I'm going to defund you. And you certainly said that, Zoran Mamdani. We need 7,000 police. We only have 32,500. The problem in recruiting police, which neither of you are addressing, is that their insurance was stripped from them. The state, you did nothing when you were governor, and here in the city, 2021, the city council and Eric Adams did nothing. They don't have qualified immunity, which you benefited from, Andrew Cuomo, with the 13 lawsuits filed against you for sexual harassment. Tom DiNapoli says we're paying out $60 million. Why? Because you had your qualified immunity as governor, and yet people have stood.
You had qualified immunity, and it let you get away with harassing women sexually. Police need qualified immunity so they can get away with harassing women sexually.
Qualified immunity, it's not insurance at all.
You are entitled to
It's
free legal counsel, which is what he's referring to.
Yes.
You have spent.
Yes, but it's New York City that has revoked qualified immunity. It's not insurance. It's qualified immunity. It has nothing to do with insurance.
So that protected you in all these lawsuits.
And yes, the lawsuits, because there was a report filed. I said it was political. It turned out to be political. And that's why
all
Someone-
13 women were lying?
Just say-
Come on, Andrew. All 13
After
women were lying.
After 5 years.
Some
A
of the
state
cases
trooper,
have
too?
still
Yeah,
been
after
open
5
and
years,
remain
5
open.
DAs, 5 years of
I'm going to
litigation.
move on.
If it's a dumb take, it's Sliwa's dumb take. That I'm just saying what he said. Within the logic of his sentence, he was saying it's good the police had qualified immunity. It's bad that you had it. I don't know why he would then want armed people.
Plan to bring
Let's do
new
what Mamdani
ideas
has
to
say.
this city. If you want more of the same, vote for Andrew Cuomo. If you want an actual approach to lower crime, look at our Department of Community Safety. That is something that has been hailed by experts as addressing so many of the pieces of why New Yorkers are not feeling safe today. We will ensure that no longer are police officers asked to do the job of both policing and responding to the mental health crisis.
Boom.
We will have dedicated
talking
teams
about
of
an
mental
actual
health
issue
outreach workers in the
and an
top
actual
100 subway
solution
stations with the
to the
highest levels of
stated
the mental
problem.
health crisis and homelessness. We will ensure that cops can finally go back to the response times they used to have in 2020, closer to 11 minutes, as opposed to the closer to 16 minutes today, because they won't be asked to respond to the 200,000 mental health calls that are coming in through 911 every year. This is
So
evidence-based.
crime
It's been
is
successful
down,
elsewhere
but
in the
police
country.
are
It's time
overworked
we deliver it right here in
because
New York
police
City.
are being
It's time
asked
for a
Thank you,
change.
Mr.
to
Mamdani.
deal with
Have-
non-crime
Thank
issues.
you, Melissa.
Hence, the only one.
I'm sorry, this is not free for all. We have another.
The only one with a real response to that question was Mamdani.
We're going to talk about disciplining police officers. The civilian watchdog that investigates police misconduct regularly recommends discipline for cops accused of wrongdoing, but the police commissioner often overrides them. You want to change that policy so that the board has final say. Please explain to viewers in 30 seconds why you believe the police commissioner should no longer have that final say.
What I've said is that I think it's time to remove much of the politics out of the question of accountability. We have the Civilian Complaint Review Board, which, as you said, studies, assesses, and investigates into complaints of abuse and the violation of the law. And oftentimes, those recommendations are then subject to political pressures and not followed through on. I think New Yorkers deserve a system where they know it won't then be assessed once again that there's actually more to the recommendation in the investigation that's being done by the CCRB.
Okay, we're wrapping up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mamdani. Mr. Cuomo, do you believe changes are needed for how officers are disciplined? And are there any powers that you would give up as mayor? You have 30 seconds.
Yeah, I would not remove the police commissioner from the CCRB. I'd leave it with the police commissioner. I think Commissioner Tisch is doing a very good job. I would trust her. The difference between me and the assemblyman is he doesn't like the police. That's why he won't hire more police when everyone else says we need more police. He wants to use social workers on domestic violence calls, which are very dangerous. And he's told you what he thinks. He thinks the police are racist, wicked, corrupt, and a threat to public safety.
Thank you.
Those are his words.
Very quick.
Mr. Mamdani?
Mr. Mamdani, very quick.
Look, Andrew Cuomo is
They
a
are.
politician of the past, and all he can speak about are the tweets of the past in 2020. Those are tweets which I have apologized for to New Yorkers and police officers directly, and they are not what I am actually running on.
No,
But you're
you haven't.
incapable
But
of
quickly,
actually
Mr.
speaking about the platform that we have
Mr.
here,
Mamdani,
which is
can
one
we
that will
just-
keep New Yorkers safe.
Can we just quickly ask you, because I think what some people feel they haven't heard from you, we hear you saying that you don't believe that anymore and you've apologized. People have not heard you sort of describe the evolution of your thought, how you got from there to here.
You know, growing up in this city, I would think often about safety and justice and the ways in which that relationship has been irrevocably harmed. When I learned about the exonerated five, when I learned about Sean Bell, when I learned about Eric Garner, when I learned about Michael Brown. And then in 2020, when I wrote these tweets, learning about the death of George Floyd. And that was a moment where it felt as if the distance between these two ideals had never been further. And in becoming an assembly member and serving and representing more than 100,000 people in Queens, learning that to deliver justice means to also deliver safety. And that means leading a city
Mr. Mamdani,
where you recognize the
we have to
bravery
move
of the
on.
men and women who joined the NYPD and put their lives on the line. It means representing
You're not-
the Muslims who were illegally surveilled in my
Thank you
district
so much,
and the
Mr.
black and
Sliwa.
brown New
Yeah,
Yorkers
I
who've been
know.
All right,
victims
thank
of
you,
police
Mr. Mamdani.
brutality.
Police
So
are bad.
Mr. Sliwa, you've been out there, you've been on the trains, and I would like to.
You may not agree with him, and I understand if you don't, but he makes the case well, at least for what I believe.
What you've suggested,
Zoran Curtis.
Zoran,
Thank you.
excuse me.
Appreciate
Let me just suggest that what you have proposed with this new police outreach unit will endanger women and children in domestic violence situations. I know I've been involved in so many of them with the Guardian Angels. They will be killed. They will be maimed. Number two, in dealing with emotionally disturbed persons that I have dealt with for all my years as the Guardian Angels, you need trained
Guardian
professionals.
Angels are a
you,
street
Mr.
gang.
Yes, you can have
the
mental
record.
health workers with them.
Thank you, Mr.
They
Sliwa.
But that
assault
has been
people.
suggested. It was
Mr.
done
Stewart,
before
thank
by
you.
the homeless
Thank you.
outreach.
We
They
have
have
other
no
routes.
And the
legal
guy you thought
authority,
was the best
Mr.
man
Stewart,
and they
in the
attack
Plaza
people on the
disbanded
streets.
them.
They're a
Stewart,
gang.
thank you. Brief response.
That's just
To be
reality.
very clear, the Department of Community Safety is not about
Weird that he
responding to
keeps bringing
calls
them
of
up.
domestic violence. We are speaking about mental health crisis and the homelessness crisis. These are the focuses of the work that they
Okay,
will do.
all right. We have other questions for that a little later in the debate, but we want to just change the pace a little bit, candidates, switching gears to the high cost of living in New York City.
Okay.
To kick us off, we have a few quick pocketbook questions that New Yorkers wrestle with daily. So we want to know how much you spend a week on groceries. We'll begin with you, Mr.
Yes. Just ask him how much a gallon of milk costs. Watch him
Depends
struggle.
how many times my daughters come over, but probably about $150.
Okay, Mr. Sliwa?
Oh, I'd say about $175 with a gallon of milk, now $5 and always rising up. Loaf of bread.
Sliwa.
Simple
Okay.
loaf of bread. It's
not
$99
$5 in my
It's
area,
like
but
$3
I'm
now.
glad he mentioned that he
Price
knows
is
what it
too-
Mr.
I
Sliwa,
was
thank
going to
you.
say,
A brief answer. Thank you,
Sliwa
Mr.
might
Mamdani.
be able
I actually
to,
agree with Curtis on that. It is too costly.
it.
Now that eggs are down to less than $4, though, my average spend every
They're-
week is about $125, $150
They've
Do you
caught
carry
on.
credit card debt or do you pay it off every month?
off every month.
Mr. Cuomo?
Paid off.
Mr. Sliwa?
I don't have a credit card. I have a
don't
debit
either.
card.
Same.
And for the record, what is your monthly rent or mortgage, Mr. Sliwa?
About $3,900. It's not subsidized there, so.
Mr. Mamdani, what is your monthly rent or mortgage?
$2,300.
Mr. Cuomo?
He has a
yeah.
rent-stabilized apartment that a poor person's supposed to have. Mine is about $7,800.
We are actually getting to
We're gonna cover that subject. But Sally?
So
Thank you. We're going to talk a little bit more about
He
the runaway rent in
spends
this city. Mr. Mamdani, you're pledging to freeze
$100,000
rent
a
for nearly
year
1
on
million
rent.
rent-stabilized apartments. That really affects less than half of all rentals in the city. What is your plan for those who aren't in stabilized
everybody
apartments but are struggling
rent-stabilized
to pay the
apartments.
rent? What are you going to do for them?
why should he
Well, I'm
suffer?
proud to say that yes,
he's trying
we'll
to make
freeze the
other
rent
people
for
not
more than 2
suffer.
million rent-stabilized tenants, and I will also build 200,000 truly affordable homes across the 5 boroughs over the next 10 years to ensure that tenants, whether rent-stabilized or market rate, can actually have more housing such that they are not being priced out of this city. And finally, I'm also going to make it easier for the private sector to build housing in this city, because what we see today is that it's not labor, it's not materials, it's the weight that is often costing so much to actually build the housing we need in this city.
Thank you. And a follow-up for you, Mr. Mamdani. The
I
cost
don't
of
like that
maintaining a
answer.
building change year to year for landlords. The Rent Guidelines Board is legally required to consider those costs when deciding whether to freeze rents. So how can you promise a rent freeze today before ever seeing that data next year?
You know, we've seen the data time and again. It's
But next
data
year's data.
It's been data that's been
So I wanna
overruled
go
by mayors
into,
again and again. The
Zoran's
last Rent Guidelines
response
Board
there in a
study
moment, but let me
showed
let
that
him
profits were up
finish here.
12% for landlords of those units. And what did they do? They raised the rent, adding to more than 12% under Eric Adams' administration. What I am speaking about is actually reflecting the needs of these New Yorkers and the state of the market today. These are New Yorkers who have a median household income of $60,000. We do not need to be pushing them further out of the city. We need to keep them in their homes.
Median
Aren't you saying in
household
that
income
answer that you are going to
$60,000.
prejudge?
But that's how much
you will not have
Cuomo
seen
pays
the data
for
for
rent.
next year, and you're making a determination based on data you haven't seen.
His rent alone.
I've seen the data year after year
More than
of
the
the
average
fact that salaries
New
are
Yorker makes.
stagnating,
Based on
costs
the
are up,
current
New Yorkers
For
can't
everything.
actually afford their apartments. And I will also
He doesn't
take
live in the
action
same world.
to actually ensure that the landlords of those
right,
buildings
we're
can
at
better handle
time.
their costs by
It is-
taking on their insurance,
It is
their property
based on
taxes,
annual
and their water
data,
bills.
and you
So-
haven't seen next year's data
Mr.
yet, but
Cuomo,
we're going to go
I
to
do have a
Melissa.
question for you on this subject. You have proposed something that you're calling Zoran's Law. You think that Mr. Mamdani earns too much to live in his rent-stabilized apartment, though I should note that there are no income tests for rent-stabilized apartments. But critics say your plan would force people to pay too much of their income towards the rent. So if you think Mr. Mamdani is gaming the system, what about the other New Yorkers,
Yes.
thousands of them just like him, who earn similar salaries, who are living in similar apartments? What
Okay,
would-
just to follow up on what Sally was saying, because she's right. This is not a new plan that the Assemblyman's talking about. It's Bill
They are
de
not the
Blasio's
exact
plan.
same,
It was called
David.
Freeze the rent. Bill de Blasio says the mayor can't say legally he's going to freeze the
But
rent.
they
There's a Rent
have
Guidelines
similar
Board. There are
issues.
certain,
I'd like to talk to you
considerations that have to
at
be
some
looked
point,
at. You're right, Sally.
David.
You can't say today what it's going to be in 4 years. Also, freeze
not
the
the
rent
same, but they're both
only
evil.
postpones the
And-
rent.
and we gotta
because then
take
you
them
have
both
to have
down.
an increase
Let's call them
to
the
cover
same.
the costs. Otherwise, the building is going to go bankrupt. And it does nothing
There's a
for the majority
flaw
of
in the
renters who aren't
assessment
in
of
these
what's wrong.
rent-stabilized units. Does nothing for NYCHA. Does nothing for homeowners. Does nothing for people in black, brown communities who are getting priced out. I was the HUD secretary. I built affordable housing all across this nation.
It better.
I built
3K a
affordable
month
housing
will
in
get
this
you
city
okay
when I was in
too.
my
They better.
20s. I know how to get it done. I will get it done. On the rent-stabilized units, what I'm saying is those are the precious units, and we
You're out of
should
Gino,
time.
I
I'm
gotta
sorry,
tell
Mr.
you,
keep
Cuomo.
them for
We
the
didn't
You
get
should
an
bear in
answer to the
mind-
question.
burden.
Curtis Sliwa is part of a gang that wanders the city and assaults people. It's not a joke. He calls it the Guardian Angels. He pretends like he's doing a service, but he assaults people.
He thinks you address this crisis by unleashing my landlord's ability to
He's
raise my
charming,
rent. If
but he
you
is a
think
gang
that the
member.
problem in this city is that my rent is too low,
It's not
vote for
looking
him.
good.
If you know the problem in this city is that your rent is too high, vote for me.
If I
No,
understand it
sons
correctly,
of
Mr. Cuomo,
millionaires
your
need
program,
subsidized
Zoran's Law,
housing.
would not evict Mr. Mamdani.
It would not evict him.
It would
No, he
apply to
just-
people applying for
Yeah,
apartments.
he's
But the
making
tenant
it up.
but the
He's
tenant
made it up.
advocates.
It would evict
All right.
no one.
This
It would
does
be
not
an
affect.
income
We
limitation
have to move on.
on
I
rappers.
have a
Mr.
question
Sliwa.
for Mrs.
This is
Sliwa.
like
Rosarina,
a spat in
I
a
should
schoolyard.
point out-
Let me
No, no,
suggest.
Ms.
Cuomo
Rosarina
has
a
lied.
specific question for you on this.
Yeah, well, I wanted to.
Sliwa actually is trying to answer, and he deserves credit. Cuomo has lied this entire time. Mamdani and Sliwa are the only ones being honest up there, or even trying to be.
Have your plan to help renters and landlords?
Well, first off, we have 6,000 available apartments that the mayor controls in NYCHA, and they've been empty for years. That you address number one. Then we talk about senior citizens who are living here. My whole goal is to improve and not to move. I'm concerned about the seniors, especially those that own homes. If they're 65 and make less than $250,000, no property tax, because the property tax is way too high. We need to cut it in half to keep people who are here. And then in terms of rentals, we have affordable housing that can be built in these huge skyscrapers. You see them all throughout Manhattan and in northern Brooklyn and in Long Island City, which we have 25 Empire State Buildings full of commercial space that will never be occupied for office space. We should be converting them into affordable apartments. They're in dense areas. The infrastructure can support it. I'm the only candidate here who's against the
Mr.
city of
Sliwa,
yes
thank you.
that would
Mr.
destroy
Sliwa.
residential
I have
neighborhoods.
to interrupt you because we have a programming moment right now. We're about halfway through the mayoral debate. Channel 4 and Telemundo 47 will return to regular programming, but we got a lot to get to, and you can continue watching live on NBC New York, Telemundo 47 stream.
Okay. So, we have got the representatives of neoliberals, of Republicans, and of progressives. Those are the political factions you see on stage. My assessment so far: Sliwa, in a shocking moment. One second. Is actually trying to answer questions. Oh boy, I gotta cut this way down. You know what? I'm muting that. So Sliwa has actually been trying to answer the questions. That's been impressive. Normally, I'm not trying to dunk on you, Republicans here. I'm trying to compliment you. So hear what is a compliment from somebody that's normally staunchly against you. Normally, when you get a Republican on stage, they basically act like Cuomo is acting right now, where they lie constantly, they distract, they refuse to talk about the thing they're being asked about. Normally, you don't get him behaving the way Sliwa is behaving. Now, Sliwa doesn't think he's going to win this race. And he is being, to my shock, very honest. And you know what? When he's actually being honest, I like his policies more than you might think. I like the fact that Sliwa wants no cash bail. I'm for that. I like the fact that Sliwa wants to convert empty, unused spaces and skyscrapers to affordable housing. I think that's really good. I'm not going to lie to you, though, and tell you that I think Sliwa is a serious candidate, because I cannot stress enough. This is not a joke. I'm not just saying this to be mean. I'm telling you the truth as I understand it. Sliwa is part of a gang. And I don't mean he was once in a gang when he was a teenager. I mean, the reason he's on that stage, his claim to fame, is that he's part of a gang that wanders around town and assaults people. It's very hard for me to say, yeah, he should be mayor, because on camera last year, he was being interviewed by Fox News, and he and his gang turned around. They saw a brown person. They're a white supremacist gang. They saw a brown person, and they attacked him on live TV. That happened. Go look it up. Go type Curtis Sliwa attacks someone on live TV. That happened. So he's not really a serious candidate. But I do have to say, Mamdani's been crushing it, and Sliwa's answers have been good, and Cuomo is really illustrating for everybody. I mean, anybody that's willing to, I suppose, look up his answers, he's a liar. He'll say anything about anything. But Mamdani, shockingly, has not been calling him out on those lies, and that can't last. All right, looks like they're getting back to it. Just make buses free. How about that? Oh, no.
In fare evasion in the surrounding area. What there was an increase in ridership of up to 38%.
Thank you, Mr. Mamdani.
Candidates, maybe we can dig deeper on this and get a sense of how all of you would pay for your big ideas. Mr. Mamdani, we'll start with you. We've obviously been talking about free buses. You've talked about free childcare, city-run grocery stores. So essentially, you're proposing about $10 billion in new spending. And as you've indicated, you want to pay for it with tax increases. But as Sally pointed out, Governor Hochul said no to raising income tax on millionaires. So tell New Yorkers tonight how you're going to pay for all of this in 1 minute.
Look, a lot of people have
millionaire
called
thing.
even my campaign a non-starter when
luxury
we
goods.
first began. And now I stand before you proud to be the Democratic nominee who got the most votes in city primary history. And I believe we will see the same thing with our push to ensure that we are taxing the wealthiest and the most profitable corporations the fair amount that they should pay. Now, there are those who will say that because it will be hard, you should give up. We saw what giving up looked like when Andrew Cuomo was the governor. He gave up on fighting for working class New Yorkers and instead caved in to his billionaire donors. And what did we get? We have the fastest and most frequent helicopter service to the Hamptons, and we have the slowest and more expensive bus service across the 5 boroughs.
But again, Mr. Mamdani, I know Governor Hochul indicated this week there may be some open windows, but more or less income tax on millionaires is off the table, according to the governor.
Look, I've said very clearly, making buses fast and free costs about $700 million a year. Making universal child care a reality costs about $5 or $6 billion a year. If you raise the state's top corporate tax rate to match that of New Jersey, you'd be raising $5 billion in and of itself.
I have a couple of follow-ups. Mr. Sliwa, you're next, but I have a couple of follow-ups.
I would just add one additional thing. We have also put forward a plan to save money here in New York City with $1 billion in savings through procurement reform, through following the independent budget office's assessment about hiring more fiscal auditors, and in actually collecting the fines and fees from bad landlords across the city.
Just a quick couple of follow-ups. If you could find some of the funding, but not all of it, which of your priorities would come first? What would be the first among equals
Interesting
that you would
question.
try to get done?
Well, freezing the rent doesn't require any fiscal infusion, so that will be something we'll be pursuing immediately. And universal childcare, after housing, is the second cost. Childcare is the second cost pushing New Yorkers out of this city. $22,500 a year is the estimate we've seen.
Okay.
That will be a priority for us.
And I just want to know if you could get the money.
So
to fund
Mamdani
elsewhere, would you
here
drop the call for the
pitching
tax increase?
socialist policies.
Absolutely. The most important thing is funding these agenda
I wanna
items.
be
I think these are the
clear.
2 most important and
Okay.
straightforward direct ways to do so. But if the money
A-
comes from
a
elsewhere,
Okay,
the most
thank you.
important
Democrat
Said the
socialist is
Mr.
not
Sliwa, you've
somebody
been talking about cutting taxes and spending. So what is your plan?
who is
and how
just
would
a
you
socialist.
pay
It means
for your
some
programs
things
like
they think should be
7,000 more
socialist,
cops?
like transportation. In other words, paid for by the government.
Never
I agree.
going to come about in terms of funding everything you want. It's going to be free. It's a fantasy. Let's deal with the reality. 7,000.
For
cops.
example,
We already
military,
have a
police,
plan
and
in
roads
Boston
should be
where
paid
you
for by the
pay
government,
for
not private
taxes in the
companies.
future. This is a great plan in which universities and others who have bought up properties that are now taken from the real estate market and taken from property tax paid. We could raise $1 billion from Columbia University, NYU, that are in the real estate business, and Madison Square Garden, your friends, Andrew Cuomo, Jimmy Dolan, who pays no property taxes. That's how you raise $1 billion to get 700 police officers trained, vetted, and out into the streets in the 5 boroughs. And then the police will be on the subways, and they will be patrolling the old-fashioned way where they're needed, going up and down the moving subway cars, where people want to see the visual protection, especially women who are being assaulted, perved, and like we saw this morning on 86th Street,
Sandy? I'm
a
shocked.
woman with a gun to her head,
Sliwa, thank
an
you.
armed
Thank
robbery
you very
because
much.
we don't have
Mr.
enough
Cuomo,
cops.
I have a question for you in this topic, and let's talk
that
about
was
history.
a
because
lengthy
as
non-answer
Governor, you raised
from
and
Sliwa.
cut taxes. Now you're proposing some tax relief. What's the price tag for your proposals, and where will you get the money for example, 5,000 new police officers? You have a minute to answer.
Yeah.
I think Sally's question was very
I think
well taken.
nobody here likes
the
Cuomo enough to give what his answer is. Yeah, I really feel like this is an underappreciated fact. Moms Russo says Sliwa was/is a vigilante. How do I know? I lived through his bullshit. That's the thing. I mean, are you going to call the Crips a vigilante? Are you going to call the Bloods a vigilante? Sliwa assaults people, and he judges them worthy of being assaulted pretty much based on skin color. Sliwa, if the fact that he's up here will be written about in history books as like a shocking thing, like how in some African countries there was like dictators that chop people's hands off with machetes to make a point, and we talk about them in history books. That's how Sliwa being on the stage is going to be discussed. And I'm sorry that Republicans, conservatives, I suppose, don't have better representation. But I say this as up on stage, probably the most right-wing person there is somebody who was trying to run as a Democrat, Andrew Cuomo.
19 to 28
Sliwa,
who have skill levels
thank you.
if they go to school here.
Thank you, Mr. Sliwa.
Andrew Cuomo thinks it's all right to spend $60 million to fund his legal defense from accusations of more than a dozen women
Boom.
of sexual
Get him,
harassment.
Mamdani.
But if I say we should spend the same amount of money on delivering cheaper groceries in this city through a pilot
All right,
program,
Mr. Mamdani.
that
Thank
is
you.
unfathomable.
Quick, and
David,
then
I
we
have
got
a
to move
right
on.
to respond
yes,
to that.
quickly.
First,
But I
did
don't
not bring those.
need to listen to you. So great point by Mamdani there. Essentially saying, look, we spent $60 million paying for this corrupt former governor's legal defense because he couldn't keep his hands off the staff. He couldn't stop groping people. And he's even acknowledged, Cuomo has, indecent behavior. But we don't blink at that 60 million, but to spend $60 million to deal with the problem of expensive groceries, that's a big ask? No.
Sexual harassment cases to defend Governor
Speaking of.
Cuomo and his staff was about $21
Sorry, it was the
million.
sexual harassment
I
and
just
the
want to
nursing home
clarify
cases.
because you said 60, but
All right,
on those
we-
cases it was 21.
Okay, thank you. We have to talk about quality
There we
of life
go.
in the city.
All right, good
Let's turn
correction.
to everyday life in the city and some issues of mayor.
We can $21 million instead of $60 million. So one grocery store instead of three. All you have to do is have a governor that's not a diddler, not a groper.
311 for issues with my heating in my apartment. And I've spoken to New Yorkers time and time again who are frustrated by the fact that they can track their Uber Eats block by block, but when they call 311 for them to come to their apartment, it's just a question of hoping and praying that they do. There's no actual appointment. That's something that we would change.
All right, Mr. Sliwa, have you ever called 311?
You know, there used to be that song 911 is a joke by Public Enemy. 311 is a joke. You can call it over and over and over again, and
Have
you
you-
never get
have you
a
ever?
response.
Have you?
The analytics are when the operators talk to you,
Mr.
as I
Sliwa,
talk to them.
have you called?
Yes, I've called them many times and gotten
Okay.
no response.
Mr. Cuomo?
Most citizens I talk to
Okay.
I would agree, Victory Music. The focus on funding is a distraction because it's the job of the politicians to find the funding in a realistic way. But it's not our job to worry about that. Yeah, the focus on funding is somewhat nonsensical. Although, in response, I mean, in fairness to Mamdani, he was asked specifically about the funding. It would have been shady of him not to answer that question. I disagree, though, that you already have cheap groceries. Sliwa himself just said milk is $5 in New York. Milk is $3 where I live, also a big city. $3. Milk is almost half the price where I am. You might be able to endure it, but you shouldn't have to endure it. Let's hear what Sliwa has to say. I'm actually interested in the Republican candidate. We can get Cuomo off stage. I would like it to just be, hold up. I'm going to interrupt my own guy to throw Republicans another bone. I'm going to lose viewers to do this. That's how much I care about having a real conversation with y'all. I would rather this be a debate between the only two real candidates up there, one of which I think is literally a criminal human being, deserves to be in prison. Nonetheless, I would like this to be a debate between Cuomo and Sliwa. Not Cuomo and Sliwa. Mamdani and Sliwa. Cuomo has no business being on that stage. He lost. He should be gone. He's irrelevant. He doesn't have beliefs. He just wants power. Sliwa has beliefs that I disagree with, but at least he has beliefs, and at least he's willing to make a case for them. And he's showing that there is a coherent through line to his ideology here. In other words, Mamdani and Sliwa are showing themselves to be competent candidates. I don't know why Cuomo bothered to show up.
And New Yorkers are part of that system. I think they would be more cooperative than
Thank
you
you.
think.
Thank you very much.
There's no
That's
proposal.
true. I do suck.
Mr. Sliwa, how would you quiet a little bit the city that never sleeps?
In the outer boroughs, I see problems all the time, quality of life issues. 18-wheel tractor trailers, RVs parked everywhere. Garbage that's not picked up and collected. In the city, we've seen trash cans taken away by the sanitation department, Jessica Tisch, when she was the commissioner. The quality of life has diminished noticeably. So naturally, people are going to revert to 311. But it's important that a mayor be able to provide services to all the people. And they believe
you.
if
Thank you,
quality of
Mr.
life
Sliwa.
is diminished, The next
Thank
stop
you,
is
Mr.
sell your
Mamdani.
house and leave the city. And my goal is
Well, thank
to
you very
improve
much.
and not move.
Mr. Mamdani, your turn.
What we've seen is one of the biggest sources of noise in this city is from congestion. And with the implementation of congestion pricing, we've actually seen noise complaints drop in the congestion zone. And so I would continue to find ways to ensure that we have reduced congestion across the city. And one of the ways is by making the slowest buses in America ones that are fast and free, so that New Yorkers can not only live a life of excellent quality of life, but also be able to get around this city without having to worry if they have $2.90 or soon to be $3 in their pocket, which is already out of reach for 1 in 5 New Yorkers.
We have here the author of congestion pricing, and we have the apprentice of congestion pricing.
We might
I'm
need
the
a-
only
we-
candidate who's opposed to congestion pricing.
Thank you.
It
Okay,
has
thank you,
led
Mr.
to
Sliwa.
We might need to-
storefronts
we might need to
closing
place-
because they don't have enough
have-
food.
we have other
We
quality
need
of
to
life
move on,
issues.
otherwise we
Can I
might
just
have to place a call to 311
Right.
about candidates going over there a lot of time, okay? So we're going to move
No
on
one's
to
there, don't worry.
We're going to move on to illegal parking plaques in many neighborhoods. Recently, Councilmember
turn that
Lincoln
volume.
Ressler released a study that found 450 vehicles parked illegally during the day in downtown Brooklyn, many with fake or government placards. That's just one snapshot of the city, but you hear similar complaints everywhere. So how would you fix this specific situation? You'll have 30 seconds. Mr. Sliwa will begin with you.
Well, obviously, placards have been abused consistently. You have people who've created fake placards. Not only that, you have people with fake license plates, paper plates. This all violations against the Department of Transportation rules and regulations of where you can park a vehicle. There's just no enforcement. And that's because we don't have police.
I really worry, Victory Music, that you think Sliwa, the guy who was caught on camera assaulting a random New Yorker, should be head of public safety. He has endangered public safety. I'm not even I've said reasons that might be good for voting for the guy, but one reason you definitely shouldn't have for voting for Curtis Sliwa is public safety. He has been a public safety menace since the 90s. Again, one last time for this round, he has assaulted multiple people with his gang that he started. He is not a public safety guy.
Reissue only those that are bona fide.
Also,
period,
Cuomo
on day one.
ran things poorly.
On the
and
quality
killed
of
a bunch
life
people in a
issues,
nursing home
the
during
worst
COVID.
thing that could happen is if the assemblyman's
I just
proposal
don't see
for
it.
legalizing prostitution went through. That would be terrible for the quality of life. He also doesn't want to enforce misdemeanors.
We're getting to that,
That's
Mr. Cuomo.
assault, larceny, et cetera. That would
We're
be
going to
terrible.
have time to address that.
I want to be very clear. Not only have I never called for the legalization of prostitution, I'm not calling for that
Michael
today
Parker,
either. And I
how
also
should
have
roads
never
be
said
paid
anything
for?
about not enforcing misdemeanors. This is just yet another figment of Andrew
Should the
Cuomo's
military
imagination.
be
The
privatized?
DSA, which you give your part of
Should
your
police
salary
be
to, that's their
privatized?
position. Abolish jails, no new carceral
rely on
facilities,
socialism
don't enforce misdemeanors.
for the
And
fire
you're
department,
on the
roads,
bill in Albany
police.
as a sponsor to decriminalize prostitution.
Socialism works sometimes.
The difference between myself and Andrew Cuomo, of which there are many, is that there is no one that is actually telling me what to do other than the 8.5 million people who call this city home. If
told
you
you
want
to-
my policies,
all right.
you'll find them on my website.
Who told you to legalize prostitution?
Okay, we actually have a question.
I did. I begged him.
You signed
I
the
said,
law
please,
doing away
please
with
legalize it.
loitering for
I'm
prostitution.
sick of
That
small
was the
talk.
law put
Okay.
forward by Jessica
All right, gentlemen.
Ramos.
Gentlemen,
you
that's not what-
started the prostitution
All right, gentlemen,
in
Mr.
East
Sliwa.
Elmhurst,
That's not
I was
Mr.
trying to
Sliwa,
love my
Mr.
neighbor.
and Jackson
Sliwa.
Heights and Flushing.
Mr. Sliwa, we have.
And you want to add to it,
You don't
which
know.
Mr.
diminishes
Sliwa.
the quality of life.
Mr. Sliwa, when I talk over you, nobody's hearing you, and we actually have a question on that. So we'll
Yeah.
let Rosarina ask.
And for this question, candidates, we want to come to Queens, where we know that prostitution has been an ongoing complaint. Mayor Adams formed a task force and ordered sweeps by the NYC.
I got to be honest, I don't give a damn about prostitution. Bits and pieces. Why do you say that Mamdani supports Sharia law? Who told you that? Because they lied to you. It's not your fault that you think that. But Sharia law, you're right. It's against women, freedom, and homosexuality. You're right. It is against those things. It's a far right belief system. It's religious theocracy, Sharia law. Mamdani is a far left person. He's not far right. Who told you this, bits and pieces? Because you're getting lied to. I'm not saying you should vote for Mamdani. You should like him, but if you don't like him, you should not like him for the right reasons. He's straight up not in favor of Sharia law. Never has been. So whoever told you that he was willfully lying to you. In other words, they knew they were lying when they told it to you.
Decriminalization.
I do not think that we should be prosecuting women who are struggling, who are currently being thrown in jail, and then being offered job opportunities. I think we should be actually providing those kinds of opportunities at the first point of interaction.
Mr. Cuomo,
Yeah.
your turn.
Look, Bill de Blasio, the assemblyman is a mini-me BDB, okay? He's Bill de Blasio light. He proposed legalizing prostitution. He didn't get it, and he just told the cops, don't arrest any more prostitutes. There is a bill in Albany that he signed that says the prostitution, that a woman who is a prostitute, that would be decriminalized. That is what the bill says. And that's what he said, if you listen very carefully. That would take Roosevelt Avenue and explode it, because it would make it legal for prostitutes.
But real quick, how would you handle this situation?
You have to enforce the law. It's illegal. I went to Roosevelt Avenue. I talked to the store owners. I talked to the neighbors. I walked down Roosevelt Avenue
Thank
with
you. I have to
prostitutes
move on
there at
to
9
Mr.
o'clock in the
Sliwa.
morning.
Your turn, Mr. Sliwa.
I've dealt with this back in the 80s and 90s in Hell's Kitchen in Chelsea when they were overrun with open-air prostitution and Times Square. You don't go after the women.
Sometimes.
The women are the victims here. You lock up the Johns, you shame the Johns. You let everybody know about the Johns. The madams and the pimps need to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And these absentee landlords who knowingly rent their rooms, their apartments out for the use of prostitution, the Department of Buildings should come in, padlock the building, seize the building. Because many of these landlords live in Delray, Florida. They did back in the 80s and 90s when we did it in Chelsea and time.
I don't agree with the policy, but he's being honest about it. Like, he's not lying about what his policy is. Cuomo was lying. So there's a crucial difference there. I disagree with him, but he's not a bad, he wasn't lying.
Your mindsets and how you'll approach governing as mayor. Mr. Cuomo, you have touted your experience on the campaign trail time and again, but you pretty squarely lost the Democratic primary to Mr. Mamdani, forcing you, a lifelong Democrat, to run as an independent. When you announced that decision, you said, quote, when you get knocked down, learn the lesson and pick yourself back up. What lesson did you learn, and what do you feel it said about you, something you did wrong,
break the
something
rules to try
that you
to
need
steal
to change
power
about yourself?
away from the people?
I think in the primary campaign, I did not do enough on social media, which is a very effective medium now. I think the assemblyman did do a better job on TikTok.
I don't give a just a quick reminder to the Wicked community. I understand we're going to have a lot of people visiting. They're not going to agree with us. Let them cook a little bit. I want to understand who the people who disagree with us are and why they disagree with us. So let them talk. It's all right.
Called Barack Obama evil and a liar. Didn't vote for
Barack
Kamala
Obama,
Harris.
a socialist.
Fight and
Barack
deliver
Obama
is,
was
I will fight
center-right.
for people. I will fight
I know
the
you haven't been
bureaucracy,
told that,
and I will
but the
deliver
fact
results.
is,
New
you
Yorkers
to be muted
need.
again. Barack Obama is a center-right figure. He is not elected. He was elected by the Democrats. So was Cuomo once upon a time. But Barack Obama is not a progressive, or certainly he's not a socialist either.
Social media, more accessibility.
Okay.
I just have to say, it's been an hour and 20 minutes of this debate, and we haven't heard Governor Cuomo say the word affordability. That's why he lost.
I don't care. Hey, Dave H., please do not use that word, the R word, as a slur. I got members of my audience with family that are affected by that slur. Just be kind. You're a guest here, so behave like it. But socialism, for the record, does work for our police. It works for our firefighters. It works for our road work. It works for a lot of things you rely on but don't think about because it's not pitched to you as socialism. But yeah, government-run programs, that's a common thing. And I think the real problem we have is blind adherence to ideology that people don't even understand. Capitalism, socialism, communism, blah, blah, blah. People find an ism to describe to describe a policy and give you a way to feel about it. I would say this, if you don't understand what the ism actually means, if I asked you right now on the spot, without looking it up, to define socialism, I doubt you could. So don't bother with it, because it's irrelevant to you. It's irrelevant to most of us.
Even though
It's
not
what
on this
talking
stage,
heads
is to call
confuse
me,
you.
the first Muslim on the precipice of leading this city, a terrorist sympathizer, is to send mailers that artificially lengthen my beard,
Okay.
is to say to New Yorkers that they should be
I know-
fearful.
Okay, Mr.
What I will do is
Melissa has
deliver
a
for all.
specific, Melissa has a specific question for
Mamdani,
you.
you are the Democratic nominee, and you're also a member, as we've been discussing, of a political organization that may be less familiar to New Yorkers, the Democratic Socialists of
Agreed.
America, which believes in
Incorrect.
dismantling capitalism.
We have a
New York
mixed
City is the
economy.
global
Problem is
headquarters
corruption.
of the finance industry. So how would you
And
be
lack
the
of
mayor
regulation
of Wall Street
leading to corruption,
and the
in my opinion.
DSA? You have 1 minute.
I would be the mayor of this entire city. And that means ensuring that the wealth that we generate in this city is also wealth that every single New Yorker can actually feel in their pockets. Because what we have today is a system that has generated the most wealth in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, where 1 in 4 of our neighbors are living in poverty. That's unacceptable. We can't look at 500,000 kids hungry every single night as just the cost of doing business in
Define
the city.
what you
That's
mean
something
by
we have to
over, though.
actually change. And I'm going to do that by fighting
over
for my
individual.
neighbors in Queens that I've come to know, who are not only the ones who own teapots and toy stores, who own diners and
I don't
dry
know what
cleaners, but
you're
also the
saying.
ones who work there. Because right
my
now,
point.
all of them are
I
being
don't
pushed
think
out
you
of the
do either.
city by corporate greed, by private equity, and by a politics that refuses to fight for them. I will finally
Just a
deliver that
quick
politics.
follow-up, Mr. Mamdani. A lot of Hispanic that flee socialism and are a little bit scared to hear your policies. What would you tell them?
Well, I would first say that I wouldn't be here without the support of Latino New Yorkers, because it was the majority of their support that helped to make me
Jeff
the Democratic
Hopkins
nominee. And what democratic
says
socialism
that
means is a
Islam
belief in the dignity of
evil
each and every
ideology.
New Yorker and the responsibility city government has to
Jeff
deliver
Hopkins,
that dignity.
that is
That's why I'm
bigotry.
speaking about childcare, because it's pricing out New Yorkers from the city. That's why I'm speaking about freezing the rent, because
No
housing isn't a human right
Islamist,
in the way that
no
we practice our
Muslim,
politics in this city.
no
And that's
Muslim
why I'm talking
should
about
be in
making
office.
buses fast and free. Workers are being priced out of public transit today.
Nobody else talked to this person. Jeff Hopton, that is very un-American of you. No Muslims should be in office. So because of somebody's religion, they should be prevented from representing us. What if I want to be represented by Mamdani? His religion should disqualify him? That's pretty bigoted. And you should consider just broadly who you've become and who the people you watch on TV and on the internet have turned you into. Because I suspect you're better than this. I suspect this is a reaction to some poisonous words that you haven't taken a moment to think about. Raise yourself up. Maybe take a step away from politics for a while, but consider what your principles are as a man. Are you a bigot? I don't think so. But you've been acting like one on my stream. Give it some thought.
Sign, turn your ballot over and vote no on all those initiative and referendums. Imagine, they've said, how can you, Curtis, a Republican, work with a Democratic majority in the council? Adrian Adams is in agreement with me.
I
The
would have
Democratic City
killed
Council
to be in
people
a
are in
Bollywood.
agreement with me. No
Oh
to
my
the city
God.
of yes, which
Not
will
wrong,
take your
my
homes
Okay.
and provide
Thank
you
you, Mr.
instead
Sliwa.
with lithium-ion battery warehouses
Thank
next
you,
to your house,
Mr.
which are like
Sliwa.
mini Chernobyl.
Thank
I'm
you.
the only candidate who is
Thank you.
opposed to the city of yes.
Thank you.
Just do a
Can
quick, I have a quick follow to that, Mr. Sliwa. How do you bring down costs if you don't build more housing?
Oh, it's very simple to build housing. You just look in New York City. We have so many dense areas
empty
where
houses.
you no longer can use the
buildings. You
commercial
said already.
space. They used to be office space,
I mean, run
and you
some-
just convert
yeah.
it into residential housing. You don't need to go into the outer
You're
boroughs.
opposing
You don't need to
policy to
use
build more
wetlands
housing.
and
I
parklands,
congratulate
which
you.
they
Thank
seek to do. If you build a new building,
Yeah.
it takes 5 years. If you
Okay.
convert an
All right, Mr.
existing
Sliwa, thank you.
empty
We want to
building,
change the
it
pace
can
here
be
a little
done
bit.
in a year.
Want to change the pace and just get a sense of what you think about political leadership. We're curious about who you admire. Who is the best modern-day U.S. president? Mr. Cuomo?
Modern day, Well, I'm partial. I was Bill Clinton's Housing and Urban Development
of
Secretary. We
Bill
built
Clinton
affordable housing all
basically
across
the
the
devil
United
in my
States.
So Bill Clinton?
Empowerment zones. I would say Bill Clinton.
Okay, Mr. Mamdani?
Progressives hate Clintons.
I
for the
would
record.
say
Any Clinton.
FDR.
Mr. Sliwa?
He's modern day.
FDR. Yeah, that's. I would give the
I
same
say
answer.
FDR also, if that's modern day.
Maybe
Mr. Sliwa.
LBJ.
A man that ended up being loved by Democrats
We don't
and
have good
Republicans
modern-day
alike.
presidents.
The greatest governor we've ever had in my
Reagan,
lifetime,
F.
George Pataki. 3 terms, no chaos, no corruption.
I was
And
asking
he actually beat
President.
the better
President,
Cuomo, your father.
Mr. Sliwa, modern day U.S.
this
president.
governor and this
Modern day U.S.
president, Curtis.
president.
Wake
Oh, who's
up.
the
Yeah, who you thought the best modern day
best president in our lifetime?
He's going to say Trump.
I would say
Modern.
the best president in our lifetime that I've experienced. I would go back to Ronald Reagan.
Oh, okay, good.
How about the
I
best
mean,
New York
look,
City mayor,
that's
Mr.
an evil
Sliwa?
answer. That's an answer that says a lot about not caring about corruption or crime. But it's braver than just saying, "Oh, Trump."
Bloomberg thrown in because he liked
Mr.
the delegate
Mamdani?
responsibility.
I think the best New York City mayor of all time is Fiorello LaGuardia.
Mr. Cuomo?
I don't think he
It
eats.
was Bill de
children,
Blasio last debate.
But I do
No, I've
think
always said
Bill-
Fiorello is the best mayor of all time.
Who's yours, Mr. Cuomo?
Is it of all time or modern time?
I think
Best
he
New
was
York
on
City
the
mayor
island.
in Europe.
Of all time, it is Fiorello LaGuardia.
We agree.
I don't know why they haven't released the files.
Recently,
but I'm
I would
positive
say
Bill Clinton
Mayor
was in them,
Dinkins and Mayor
and I
Bloomberg.
hope you will
Okay.
join
How
me in
about
calling
the political
for
leader,
releasing
dead
files.
or alive, you most
I want
admire?
that guy in
Mr.
prison.
Mamdani?
We're running out of time.
I would say I admire Bernie Sanders.
Hell yeah.
Mr. Cuomo?
My father.
Mr. Sliwa?
I said it already, George Pataki, who was
Pataki.
loved by Democrats and Republicans and the greatest mayor in our lifetime.
All right.
The greatest
Sal-
governor in
I
our
just
lifetime.
have one more before Sally starts asking about
Ian,
schools. A
yeah,
show
I
of hands.
gotta-
Who supports Kathy Hochul for re-election?
Not all
It's a
Republicans.
decision
are
that should be made after this general election.
Most
So
Republicans.
no
are PETA.
decision.
Most Republicans
Mr. Cuomo,
and most Democrats.
you handpicked her as
I'll-
lieutenant governor. No,
are PETA.
no thought.
You have to know who's running.
Okay, so
And I would add that I do think that Kathy Hochul, our governor, has been doing a good job in not only
Do you
serving
support her
and
for
delivering,
re-election?
not only delivering for New Yorkers, but also standing up
Do
to
you-
Donald Trump.
just what do you support her for
Then
re-election?
endorse her.
I'm focusing on November.
Why don't you
And I
endorse her?
appreciate her support
All right,
and I
thanks,
appreciate her
candidates.
work.
But you
Thanks,
don't endorse
candidates.
her.
How about a shout out
All
for
right,
Lisa
we're gonna
Stefanik
turn
to
to-
take out Kathy Hochul? So
No.
you have a
Okay.
Republican
All right.
mayor, Curtis,
Love
a
Bernie
Republican
Sanders.
governor,
Thank you, gentlemen.
Stefanik,
Thank you.
like Giuliani
You wanna
and
talk about
Pataki, who
schools?
saved
Even if you disagree with Bernie Sanders, you got to acknowledge he spent his whole life trying to help you.
One that's been controversial in the campaign is the Gifted and Talented program, which offers accelerated instruction to elementary school children. Mr. Mamdani, you have said that you want to phase out the Gifted and Talented program, while Mr. Cuomo and Mr. Sliwa want to expand it. Mr. Sliwa, we will start with you. What is your plan for the program? You have 1 minute.
gifted and talented.
Yes, Gifted and Talented.
I have 2 younger sons with Melinda Katz, the Queens DA. They both attempted to get into gifted and talented as 4-year-olds. They failed. It did not present a problem with their future education. We don't have enough slots. Right now, they're 1,900. We need to have at least 5,000 slots around the city. What they have not done at the Department of Education is make these tests available in Black and Hispanic communities. So, for instance, you have 77,000 children who are 4 years old. Only 10,000 have taken the test. Only 2,000 are accepted. Why not offer the test to all 77,000? And even if a gifted and talented class only has 3 or 4 in a minority school, give these children an opportunity to excel too. That would
don't
make it fair
understand
for everybody.
This program.
Thank you.
at all.
Mr. Cuomo, how does your plan differ from Mr. Sliwa's? You also have 1 minute.
I don't know why you have different
First,
tiers
I
in education.
support mayoral control. I think it would be a terrible mistake to roll back mayoral control. That's probably been the most
But this is a
dramatic
New York issue, so I'm not
educational
supposed to
reform in
understand.
40 years. We'd go back to the old system that had local school boards, which were corrupt, patronage mills, et cetera. So who runs the system is number one. I would expand gifted and talented programs,
Fun fact, Jeff Hopton. The reason they were called the National Socialist Party was because the socialists were in power before the ultra right-wing Nazis took over. Now, I hope you do know that the Nazis were a conservative group. They were ultra right-wing. Not unlike MAGA, just being real with you. And the reason they took on the word socialist was because of the popularity previous administrations had, not because they had socialist beliefs. But anybody that told you that, anybody that just said, Nazis were socialists, right? They were being dishonest with you. They were intentionally lying to you. And you should consider that.
Across the country here in this city. We will do that by following through on the proposals I've put forward to hire 1,000 more teachers every single year through our Community to Classroom program, one that will ensure that we're providing each student, whether they be in high school or someone who is an adult looking to become a teacher, with $12,000 in tuition subsidies so that they can start to fulfill the 7,000 to 9,000 additional teachers we need
My
so
world,
that we can
I
actually
am
deliver on the Class Size Reduction
a
Act, which I was
progressive.
proud to pass in Albany, that will ensure that children and teachers actually have a manageable ratio in that classroom so
I
that
don't
they can learn.
recognize
Because today, that learning
any
is
of
being
these
rendered
issues. I
impossible
can't even tell
by the
what you're
number
trying
of
to
kids
parody.
in that same classroom.
So
It's
whoever
time
is
to
telling
make
you
sure
about
that number is lower.
Democrats
Thanks.
is
But you
lying,
don't believe the mayor
then you
should
should
run this,
consider
the
your
system.
source of information.
I've been
Maybe
critical of
never go
mayoral
back there
control
again.
because of the ways in which it's been used to take away the voice of parents, of educators, of students. And I think it's important that those same
hard-
voices be a part of.
It's hard for me to take you seriously when you're ranting against something that nobody's in favor of. And I guess I would wonder, why did they have to lie to you to get you angry at Democrats? Maybe it's because the things Democrats are trying to do, you wouldn't actually hate. So they have to make up these things for you to think Democrats are all about, but they're not.
I
think it's worth pointing
never
out.
proposed reversing mayoral control.
No, shortening the duration of time he would have control of schools.
Yes, for renewal.
Probably.
The renewal
Right.
Mamdani,
period.
how much
Counter
control
to
of
what you're
schools,
saying.
Mr. Mamdani, how much control of schools would you be giving up? Is it just a sharing arrangement? I know you want to share with the districts and with parents, or would you be giving up full control? And is that an accountability problem if the buck doesn't stop with you?
I think the mayor needs to retain the accountability so that New Yorkers know exactly who they can come to when they have critiques. And I think we also have to develop a system where we don't have what we saw just recently, where you have hours and hours of parents and teachers and
Okay.
students testifying only to be overruled without any
Okay.
consideration by the panel on
Thank you,
education.
Mr.
That's
Mamdani. I have
called
to move
mayoral
on.
control.
Switching now.
Look
it's a
up
question for all
APAC
three of
funding.
you. Switching to students with learning
Look up
challenges.
Super PAC funding.
Parents of students with dyslexia, ADHD,
Look
and
up who paid
autism are very
for
well
Trump's
aware
court bills.
the fact that the school system in New York City is not
not
doing
even
enough
close.
to meet their children's educational needs. How will you help these parents and students? We know that Mayor Adams has expanded evaluations specifically for children with dyslexia. It was an issue close to his heart, but what would you do more broadly, Mr. Mamdani?
You know, I think some of the initiatives that Mayor Adams has launched, especially with this chancellor, have been showing positive signs, especially for literacy and for preparedness, especially as we're in a national crisis on reading and mathematical comprehension. And I think those are programs that should be furthered, should be invested in, all while also ensuring that we're giving teachers greater flexibility in the curriculum that they're actually teaching. Because what I've heard from many of those teachers is that too often the curriculum that's being procured in the $10 billion a year in DOE contracts is one that has little relation to the
Thank you,
classroom.
Mr. Mamdani. Mr. Sliwa, you have 30 seconds.
Yes. We have $41,000 that we're spending on each student now. By fourth grade, 2/3 of these children cannot read, write, or do math at grade level. We should be ashamed of ourselves for that. 100,000 less students than we had last year. 1/3 are truants. We have 200 schools with 200 students or less, and Michael Mulgrew determines which schools stay open. Eric Adams is not exhibiting mayoral control. The mayor should run the Board of Education, the old Board of Education that is now the Department of Education. The bureaucracy.
Time, Mr.
You have 13
Sliwa.
deputy chancellors. You have 50 department
I had
heads
asked
that
about-
suck up all the money,
I was
and
asking
teachers
about
are still
students
reaching
with
into their
learning
pockets
differences.
to pay
We're
for
gonna move on
badly
to
needed
Mr.
supplies
Cuomo.
for the children in the class. The money should be going to the
Mr. Sliwa,
teachers
thank you.
and the
Okay.
children and young adults, and it's not.
Mr. Cuomo, what is your specific plan to deal with the challenges of students who have learning differences?
We are losing young families. When the child becomes of school age, they leave the city, they go to the suburbs, they go to New Jersey. They're not going to sacrifice their child on what they think is a secondary education system. The core competency, reading and math, below 50% is a disgrace. The gifted and talented programs gives people hope. I do believe Mayor Adams has made progress on the evaluations and services for children who require special needs and assistance, but obviously we have to do more.
So we have another question about improving schools. And in the last year, the schools enrolled more than 36,000 migrant students, many learning English for the first time. From class size to bilingual teachers, that puts a big strain in the system. Mr. Cuomo, what can you do to help migrant students, but also the staff? You have 30 seconds.
Well, first, I think it was wrong of the state to put so many migrants in New York City. New York City had the overwhelming majority of migrants.
But they're already here.
Close to about 80%. The state should have put them all across the state, Nassau, Suffolk, upstate, so other governments could have also.
Well, they were bused here from Texas,
And
right?
we have a
Yes,
situation
but if
right
they're
now.
bused from Texas, you could have brought some to Nassau, 20 miles,
Yeah, but they're here right now,
Westchester.
and we're asking about the current problem.
Yes, well, that's how the problem was created.
Okay, we understand
The
that.
state put them here, the state gave the city the bill. It has now increased the challenge in our education system. The state is going to have to help financially.
So you didn't answer the question, Mr. Mamdani, is your chance.
You know, when I spoke about our community to classroom program, the importance of it is not just bringing in 1,000 more teachers every year. It's also that we would bring in a number of more bilingual educators. Because what we've heard from a number of adults who have taught in other countries now live in New York City
that they
is
are
the process by
acknowledging
which they get their certification
some of these
approved
folks are
to
not
teach
answering
here
questions.
is one that is onerous and one that is actually pricing many of them out. That's why this is a program that will directly address that, to increase that bilingual capacity in our school system so that we can teach every single child, no matter when they got here,
But
the public education
Mr.
they
Mamdani,
deserve.
this certification has been
answer.
offered and it hasn't been successful. So how can you make more teachers to be, like they want to do this?
Part of what I've heard is that the tuition costs as part of the same certification exams are onerous for many of these adults looking to switch careers. That's why this program is built upon providing $12,000 in tuition assistance that would lead to 1,000 more teachers every year.
And also salaries will be a good.
We have not just
What are
migrant
you
children,
talking
we
about
have
here?
the children of the homeless, over 120,000. We haven't yet discussed charter schools,
It's just
parochial schools that are closing. Normally,
become a
parochial
nonsense
schools
thing.
would have been able to take some of these children. We need to expand the number of charter schools that are doing an amazing job, especially in the inner
Become a
cities.
nonsense
And why
thing.
not make that available?
That people that don't really understand politics say, I think, to express their frustration at not understanding what's going on. When you say fixed election, I think what you're really saying is, I don't know why people react to these words that I'm hearing differently than I react to these words that I'm hearing. I can't imagine why that would be. And I can tell you why. They have different information. You are hearing different interpretations of the words you're hearing. And people are straight up lying to you about what these people are saying. Now, I am admittedly offering my interpretation for what I think is good and bad, but I'm trying to tell you what they are saying earnestly when I can. But anybody who misleads you intentionally is somebody you should cut out of your media habit forever. Oh, this is interesting. Let's get to it.
What do you do?
The law is the law, and I would have an attorney assigned to every who is undergoing any review by the federal government or any legal proceeding, and put the full weight of the city government behind it, and make sure they are legally
Harry,
protected.
I don't think
Mr.
anybody
Sliwa,
on that
Mr.
stage ever
Look,
suggested that
Going
you might have.
after the criminals, that's the job of
But if you were told by somebody who you watch that anybody on stage was going to make you wear a certain kind of clothing, that person who you were talking to is someone you should never listen to again, because they lied to you and they knew they were lying to you.
and hospitality businesses, which have hired these migrants, and they are essential workers now. I can tell you, I have 3 sons. None of them are going to do that work. Some Americans will,
I thought the same
but
thing.
most won't. We need to protect the migrants who are workers, who are essential
somebody
workers,
who can
and use
sign
ICE to
tell
go
us,
after
is this
the
real?
drug dealers, the gangbangers, the sexual predators, and
got
those who are
someone.
sex trafficking and involved in narco-terrorism.
Mr. Mamdani.
You know, I'd be proud to be the first immigrant mayor of this city in generations. And it's at 26 Federal Plaza that I've seen what used to be moments when New Yorkers
Yeah,
will be
this
getting
is
their
America.
citizenship
So you
turned
can
into
be
moments
any
of
religion
tragedy,
you want to
where
be.
judges are asking New Yorkers who are there for a routine immigration check-in
can be
whether
whatever he
they're
wants
prepared to leave in the
You
very
can be
same clothes that
whatever
they
you wanna
arrived
be.
to that courthouse. I
as
agree
long as
that we need
neither
more
of you are
legal
bigots,
representation. I also think we need to
fine.
actually be able to stand up to Donald
You
Trump.
just can't be
because
a
I
bigot
heard
in
from
America.
Pastor in East Flatbush, Pastor Galbraith,
People
who
have to
told
be
me how
allowed
he
their
accompanied a
own
member
freedom.
of his congregation
goes both ways, my
to
friend.
26 Federal Plaza. He sat there as a judge was determining her fate. They managed to convince the judge to replace the deportation order with a TPS order, but they knew that ICE would not care about that change, and they had to sprint her out of the building, smuggling her into the elevator in order to get her back to Brooklyn.
Thank you.
Candidates want to talk about New York City's economy and change the pace a little bit. Everyone supports growing New York City's economy. The mayor is our chief salesman to the business world. So we want to mix it up, test your persuasive power.
You know, that's not true, actually, Dave H. I'm the second biggest pussy. Remember, Steven Crowder is still technically on YouTube.
CEO is concerned, New York just raised its corporate taxes and employees will pay more for everything. Look into the camera and make your pitch to that CEO to come here and not there. Do it in 30 seconds.
New York City has something that Dallas or no other city across this country could actually offer. And that is the quality of life. That is the arts and the culture. That is the people that make the city so special. And I, as the mayor of this city, will deliver that quality of life, will deliver the safety that is the cornerstone of an affordability agenda, and will ensure that companies choose to come to this city and also choose to stay in this city. Because so much of what drives the tech sector is a hunger for innovation, a unrepenting desire to actually innovate, and those are the very things that are going to characterize my city government in this.
But what do you say to the CEO about the corporate taxes and also the staggering costs for the workers?
We are going to make this city more affordable so that workers who want to work at those companies can actually be able to do so. And we're going to ensure that this city continues to be one where we see businesses
Matt
opening
O'Brien.
and also staying open.
All right,
This
thank
is
you,
the
Sal.
second term of
Mr.
the
Cuomo,
guy that
something
uses
of a
that
reverse
phrase.
scenario for you. The CEO
How's
of
it
a
going?
similar company with 1,000 good jobs tells you
Is
she's
America
very
great?
close to moving her headquarters out of New York City. She cites
Got
everything
citizens
from
being harassed
taxes
in the
to the
streets,
crushing cost of living for her
losing
employees
influence
in New
in the
York
world.
City. How do you convince that CEO to stay? Please look
Yeah,
into
is
the
that an
camera
all-time
and
low,
make
my
your
friend?
elevator pitch. You have 30 seconds.
We know that the
Our
other
economy's
companies
about to crash.
in,
right?
in New York City.
Cuomo,
I'm sorry.
Ah, he means Argentina. Oh,
The question is to me in this camera?
Yes, the question is how you would convince the CEO of a company with 1,000 good jobs who's looking to move out of New York City because of the high cost of living for her employees and taxes, how you would convince her to stay in New York City.
In 15 seconds?
30.
Okay.
30 seconds.
Okay. I get it. I understand your frustration. I understand that the far left has been raising taxes and making businesses feel like the enemy. We get it. That's gone. The DSA, the socialist orientation, we're not
Any
socialists. It didn't work in Venezuela, didn't work in
Chill out a
Cuba,
little
didn't
bit.
work here. We know that we have to work with business. We want to be your partner. We want to have taxes that help us grow our city,
Okay.
but are competitive for you.
We're at time.
And we want to partner to grow your business and
Thank
our
you,
city
Mr.
together.
Thank you.
Mr.
Mr.
Sliwa,
I understand
let's
the
talk about
sentiment.
business, because let's assume the big tech company that we
We
pitched
got it,
to
we
Mr.
got it.
Mamdani earlier
We gotta be
has
diplomatic.
decided to move to New York.
Even if it
and
doesn't
it's
feel good.
1,000 good paying jobs, and the CEO wants to be based in Astoria, Queens. But there's a loud pushback of residents who don't want
Not
the
saying
noise
you are.
and the traffic. How can you convince the residents to accept the new
It
neighbor?
sucks. We have to
You're
do the
speaking to a
unpleasant
very
thing,
powerful community. How
which
can you
is to be
convince them?
pleasant when we don't
But
feel
we
like
saw that with Amazon. Amazon wanted to come in, and AOC led the charge, and local elected officials to say no to Amazon. That was a big mistake.
Sea Devil.
I would say this: our companies are being recruited.
For context, I just want to be very clear. We had one person saying mean things in a crowd of mostly progressives, and the host of the show asked them to please stop. Whereas our guests, the conservatives, their critiques of Mamdani have mostly been that he simply is a Muslim. That's genuine bigotry right there. That's what I've been gently and kindly trying to point out. So if you're talking about sociopath bigots, Be earnest with yourself here at what you've seen. You don't have to convince me. You don't have to convince anybody else. You yourself consider what you saw. Mamdani is a Muslim, and so people are assuming that he's going to force Muslim lifestyles onto people. Do you assume that about a Christian? No, because that would be bigoted. Unless, of course, they say that's what I intend to do. Mamdani never said that. So search your soul and consider, am I on the bad guy side? I do every day.
When will you send police versus social workers? You have 1 minute.
Great question.
We have a program here in New York City called Be Heard that is attempting to do this kind of work. But we've had a mayor who has ensured that it's been unsuccessful, to the extent that even when there was an assessment of about 60% of calls that could have been addressed by Be Heard instead of the NYPD, Be Heard was not actually responsive
I love you.
to it. And that's
If
because
you
we
call
haven't had the
people names
political
again,
will to deliver on what is
I'm
a
going to
crisis
put you on
that
timeout.
affects so many New Yorkers, which is the mental health crisis. What my plan will
Be a
do,
diplomat
an
or
innovative
don't
plan of the
engage in
Department
the
of Community
conversation.
Safety,
Those are
will
the
take
only
what has
two
worked
options you
elsewhere
have.
in the country, a
You're
program in
either a
Eugene, Oregon,
diplomat or
where they
silent.
took 24,000
that's
911
the
mental
way it
health
is.
calls out of the police department. They were able to respond to all but 311 without police assistance. When there is a concern for safety or of violence, absolutely, you would have the police there. But what we are doing today is actually ensuring that every single call is going to the police.
So, Mr.
Religious law is a right-wing concept. A left-winger like Mamdani is not interested in making religious law part of government. That is a right-wing thing to do.
Going to be one focused on violence and the threat of violence. And I also trust the operators who will be receiving those calls to make that determination, as they do every day today for so many emergency services.
And just two really quick points, please. There has been a lot of discussion that you would send social workers to domestic violence calls, which police are concerned about. So you're saying no, okay. And then the other question is, how can you be sure that a situation that does not sound violent when someone calls 911 does not become violent in the moment? Would police be assigned as backup?
Respectfully,
I think what you do
I
is
think
you
you've
actually follow
demonstrated,
the
and
experts
I'm not
that
trying
have
to be
shown
mean
us
to you.
this can work when you're
You
willing
don't know.
to ensure that you're trusting the
No.
mental health experts who have been doing this work elsewhere in the country, where they call for the
People who
police
have
when they
told you about Sharia law before now have been lying to you. So you should re-examine what Sharia law actually refers to, especially in the context of America. It's only something that Republicans have accused lefties of wanting to do. And they only did that because lefties didn't want to be bigoted towards Muslims. Never, never did lefties propose Sharia law. That's only Republican propaganda. In other words, you've been lied to. People misinformed you intentionally. And you should consider that about your other beliefs. What else have they lied to you about?
40,000 when you came into office, down to 4,000
No
because of your
Democrat
cuts,
ever wanted
which
Sharia
forced
law.
these people to
Never.
live in the streets, in the parks, and the subways.
Purely a
These people need to be
propaganda
removed. They need mental
lie.
health care. We need to make our shelters safe. I've been in
Say that again.
1/3 of the
Say
300.
it again. Because this has been a major issue. No Democrat has ever suggested that we run anything based off Sharia law. And if you think that's something that a Democrat wanted to do, then you have been lied to. And you should not go back to those sources that intentionally misled you, that led you to believe a wrong thing about the world, to make a misinformed decision. You should never again go to that news source because they knew what they were doing.
In distress, is there room for something in the middle?
Yeah, I think the Assemblyman deals in theory. There's an advantage when you actually have experience. I've run homeless programs. I ran the homeless programs for the federal government. I worked with cities all across the nation. When you get a call on a telephone about a mentally ill person who may be violent, it is a very dangerous situation. And I think you should have a mental health worker accompanied with a police officer, because these can be explosive situations. I have been in situations that seemed apparently calm and fine, and then erupted into violence very quickly, and it got very dangerous very quickly. So I would have a social worker with a police officer and get the people off the streets. That's the humane thing, and get them the care they need. Not institutionalize 40,000 people again. We have supportive housing now, which is what we use, and forensic beds for people who need them.
Now, let me get this straight. A police officer is there first. He has to wait for the arrival of a mental health care worker.
No, I would send them as a team.
As a team. But that's not realistic. You're dealing with fantasy also.
All right.
The police officers are going to be the first one on the scene, and they're always going to have to deal with it first and foremost.
Mr. Cuomo says that he has experience running homeless programs. What he has experience doing is cutting funding for the very programs that prevented homelessness here in New York City. As the governor, he cut funding for the Advantage program, which was putting New Yorkers who had otherwise been in shelters, otherwise been homeless, into apartments. I met one of those New Yorkers,
Mr. Cuomo,
and she told me how that pushed her out on the street.
Thank you, Mr. Mamdani. Brief response, Mr.
He's talking about a program 14 years ago. That was a pilot program that had a work requirement. It was very controversial. It was $65 million.
You're talking about Advantage, just so we know what you're talking
program.
about? Okay.
It was 14 years ago, $65 million. I added billions to the homeless budget. Funded the homeless budget larger than any governor in history.
Okay.
He
okay,
cut
thank
that
you. We want to talk
program.
about.
He
all right.
cut that
Mr.
program.
Mamdani, we have
Homelessness
aired this
skyrocketed
issue. Mr.
after
Mamdani,
It
we
did
have aired
not. It
this
was 14 years ago.
All right.
It was during the Bloomberg administration. And yes, okay.
Okay. I want to ask you about climate change. As New York City confronts the impact of climate change, one issue already on the desk of the next mayor is Local Law 97. Passed in 2019, the law requires large buildings to gradually reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. That may require very expensive upgrades to buildings, which some landlords and co-op owners say they just simply can't afford. We're wondering how each of you would enforce the law. You have 30 seconds. Mr. Cuomo.
Local Law 97, I support. Implementing the law is going to be the key, because it has to be done in a way that isn't so disruptive to businesses and residences that they just give up and pay the fine and don't even try to comply, which is what is going to happen now.
That
it will be cheaper for them to pay the fine than comply. And that obviously will
bizarre that they
accomplish
still are
nothing.
doing that.
So, yes, I support the law.
Covered in
yes,
smoke from the forest
we have
fire
to implement
recently.
it, but we have to implement it
I think
in
he's
a way
going to
that
say,
is
I'm not going to
feasible.
do anything.
Mr.
Climate
Sliwa?
change isn't real. Ha, ha,
Local
ha.
97 will destroy those people who have invested in co-ops and condos. There's 100,000.
Whoa.
It's forcing them to electrify.
Destroying
Now, you, Andrew
co-ops
Cuomo,
and
took
condos.
Indian Point offline, 25% of our electrical capacity with no replacement, which has caused skyrocketing electricity
that.
bills. And now we're going to force condo and co-op owners to electrify. Maintenance fees will go up 30%. These people will be leaving their condos and co-ops.
Harry, I just don't think that New Yorkers are bigots. I don't think New Yorkers would have an irrational hate for somebody because of their religion. Jewish or Muslim. I don't think New Yorkers are that, frankly, sinister, you know?
And
I
my
have more
proposal
faith
on what
in
I did is run cables from the nuclear facilities upstate to bring the power to downstate. Indian Point had 20 million people in the kill zone.
Thank you, Mr. Cuomo. Mr. Mamdani, Local Law 97, how would you
It's
enforce
actually
the law
a
as
common
mayor?
misconception.
I
New
support
Yorkers
the law,
don't
and I
hate
would also
white
make it
people.
easier for condo and co-op owners to comply with the law, because
I
what
do.
I've heard from so many is that it's cheaper to
Well,
pay
not
the
all white
fine
people.
than to actually get into compliance. And I think the city has a role here in procurement at a large scale of so much of what is necessary in these infrastructure
wait a minute.
investments. We've seen it.
If somebody didn't vote for somebody entirely because of their religion, if they said, "Oh, I won't vote for them because they're Muslim," that's like the definition of bigotry. Yes. Reverse it. If I this is a stupid question. You know, this is actually relevant.
Have traditionally marched
no,
in,
it's not.
or
Okay, so we don't need. The question was what I was responding to was Terry saying that she doesn't think New Yorkers will vote for a Muslim, and I'm just saying I think that's an unkind assessment of New Yorkers. I think they would vote for somebody not based on their religion at all, and that is the very definition, yes, of bigotry, to pick somebody's religion and say that's why I won't vote for him. It's like skin color. Oh, I love that answer from Mamdani. I'm gonna miss parades because it's not governance. Yes, first good answer from Cuomo as well. This is a stupid question. Sliwa being really weird about it. That's fine. I'm not even gonna be harsh on Sliwa for this. It's a weird question. He's Don't pretend like it's a serious question, Sliwa. It's a dumb question. Oh,
We thought we had some
sorry.
questions
I'm
that
so
maybe
sorry.
give a glimpse into your life,
I
your
had it
personality away from the political podium. What's your go-to breakfast order at the bodega?
Sliwa
Mr.
said he would
Sliwa?
march in every parade.
Oh,
Mamdani
eggs
and
and
Cuomo
cheese on a
both said
roll. No
they didn't
salt,
care.
please.
Mr. Cuomo?
Same thing, no salt also.
Sorry.
Mr. Mamdani?
Egg and cheese on a roll with jalapenos.
Yum.
Have you ever purchased anything in a cannabis shop? And if so, what did you buy? Mr. Mamdani?
I have.
The dumbest question. And
I
if
have
so, what
purchased
did you
marijuana
buy?
at a legal cannabis shop.
Okay.
There you go.
Mr. Cuomo?
No.
Mr. Sliwa?
When I was shot 5 times, I've had Crohn's disease. I did use medical marijuana. Yes.
Okay. In a dream
shouldn't
scenario,
laugh
we know
at
it's not
being
possible,
shot.
but the Mets are playing Game 7 of the World Series
Say,
on the same night as the Knicks are
weed.
playing Game 7 of the NBA Championship, and you can only go to one. Which one will it be, Mr. Sliwa?
Again, which baseball team?
This is the Mets, Game 7, Knicks, Game 7. Even
I'm not going to
nonsense
the Mets
question.
game. I'm a Yankee fan. True baseball fans either like one or the other. I'm going to the Knicks game. That's my team, the
Ooh,
Knicks.
Mr.
I gotta
Cuomo?
ban our first person or
I'm
second.
going to go
person.
half and half. I can make it back and forth.
All right. And Mr. Mamdani?
This is what New Yorkers are sick of. Just pick a team.
What's
Come on.
your answer?
I'd be there for the Knicks.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of ground covered.
Good point
Leave it on
from
that light note. Thank you, candidates, for a spirited debate. We thank you as well. We hope you got a lot out of it. New York City viewers, New York City voters. The New York
Overall
City
red
Campaign Finance Board, we thank heartily, and we urge you to check out their website, nycvotes.org. From all of us here, we certainly thank you for watching. And remember, go
Hey,
vote.
conservatives, stay
Tuesday,
on for a
November
little bit
4th.
if
Have a
you
good
don't mind. I'd like to hear from you because we talked about some things tonight that I'd like your input on. 'Cause I notice you don't really have a good understanding of what progressives believe, certainly, and or what Democrats believe broadly. But you know what? That probably means I don't have a good idea of what you believe. So let's address some of the viewer comments. What did you guys think of the candidates? What did you think of the questions? What did you think of me continually forgetting to unmute it and therefore making your experience worse? Michael Parker, I got to agree with you here. Both parties suck. I would sure, I'd love to convince you to support the same candidates I support. I really would. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think there's too large of a gulf, at least for this next election, between what we believe is real, like what the actual facts on the ground are. But you know what? If we both keep approaching it honestly, one day we will reach agreement there. Until that day comes, though, I would like to work with you. I would like to work with the people who are on the political opposite side of me because we are so far apart that we've actually kind of come back around. I think both of us need to get rid of about 90% of the representatives that we have. I think you are being let down by Trump in the same way I was let down by Obama. I think you're in the second term of a guy that promised a lot of things and is giving you intentionally false readouts. But look, it's not a surprise to you to hear what I have, that I've got problems with conservatives. Let me tell you some problems I have with Democrats, and I don't think in this crowd full of progressives you're going to hear much disagreement. I would love to see any Clinton in prison. I would certainly particularly love to see Bill Clinton go to prison. I'm convinced that guy sexually assaulted either children, certainly young adults, probably both. And I think we need to have a court case about it. I would love to see Barack Obama have a trial for the U.S. citizen he killed with a drone strike. Look it up. That happened. No trial. Just the president deciding this guy's going to die. I think we need to have a trial about that. I certainly think that people like Cuomo, who have been representatives of Democrats my whole life, are responsible for most of the evils that we're enduring today. And I think that if we work together, and I'm willing to throw people like Bob Menendez back into jail, even though did Trump pardon him or just Eric Adams? Eric Adams, I don't know why Trump pardoned him. He should have gone to prison. If I'm willing to throw the Clintons, Adams, if you can figure out something Pelosi did, I think she did everything legal, unfortunately. If I'm willing to toss all those, end their careers politically, at least. Effing Alyssa Slotkin, my representative currently, is a Democrat. I want her out, gone. She is of no use to me. If I'm willing to do that, I'm only asking that you be willing to do the same. Because you and I have been angry at each other for 10 years now, right-wingers. We have been arguing with each other while we both suffer more and more and more and more. Meanwhile, Trump literally doubled his net worth in the last year. He has used his office to enrich himself. So have most other Republicans. So have most other Democrats. In other words, we live in a corrupt political system where our dollars, our tax dollars, our labor is drained away. Not just in terms of actual dollars, but also in terms of moments with your children. You didn't make enough money, so you had to work overtime, so you didn't go to your kid's sporting event, their recital, their this, that, or the other thing. That's the world we've lived in. And oh, hey, by the way, if you get cancer, you're broke. That's assuming everything goes well. You're broke. If not that, then you're dead. It's not like that in other countries. Google list of countries with universal health care. Google list of countries that don't have universal health care. Ask yourself which group you'd want to be in, just of countries to be associated with. We have been let down by Republicans and Democrats. Both parties do suck, and we should agree on some fundamental principles that we have as American voters. I'm saying big money out of politics, no more super PACs. If you don't know what that is, you could look it up, or I could just tell you right now, Political Action Committee, that's a PAC. A super PAC is a huge political action committee. That's where dark money comes from. We should get rid of that. We need a change to our Constitution to do it. There's 2 court cases, Buckley versus Vallejo and Citizens United, that whether you are Republican or Democrat, you should be interested in getting rid of. And everybody who is not willing to do that, regardless of what party they're in, you should vote against in the primaries. Don't wait for the election. In the primaries. Big money out of politics, or they don't get on your ticket. We all have to take responsibility because you're right. Both parties suck. I would stop being gay, but cock is delicious. Wicked John Brown, Lucy Parsons, and Emiliano Zapata told us how. Nepal showed us how in one night. I don't know that that's true. I don't think they all have great strategies. Some work, though. Yeah, Finian, everyone must be brought to justice, no exceptions. Yeah, I don't think it matters what party you're in, really. When it simply shouldn't. And I don't think anybody would seriously suggest that it matters what party you're in when it comes to whether or not the law applies to you. But look, one thing our brother in suffering was correct about is that both parties do suck. That's not, I have no critique for that opinion. I think that's dead on. Yeah, Wicked Foxy Dragon, do the crime, get punished. It's that simple. In World War II, it was very common to fire generals and then, or to demote generals and then promote them again. It was very easy for the president to essentially issue punishments to their generals. And also, those punishments were not the end of the world. We should seriously consider that when it comes to how we behave with our politicians. Should be very easy to get kicked out of office. We should make impeaching, I think, a regular thing. Back when Clinton was first accused of lying under oath, guess what? He did lie under oath. He should have been impeached. We should have set the example that all Republicans before, I'm talking Nixon, Reagan, and Bush Sr., failed to set, because all three of those people committed crimes and were not punished for it. We should have punished Clinton. Well, we didn't. So let's learn lessons. We should make it easier to impeach. A lot of things. Ooh, Epstein files. Yeah, I don't know why they haven't been released. I am positive. I am certain Bill Clinton is in the Epstein files as a client. That is, like, if you were to ask me things I'm sure of, the sky being blue, I'm about 98% sure of. Clinton being a client in the Epstein files, 99% sure of. I do not know why the Trump administration is still protecting powerful people by not releasing that list. I don't know why Mike Johnson refuses to swear into office the senator who would be the deciding vote on that, but he is. They are still running defense. I think anybody who is running defense for diddlers needs to be gone. We have a lot we can agree on, and mostly it's that we effing hate most of the people who represent us. And hey, dude, I'm asking you not to judge me by Joe Biden, because I didn't really want that guy in office. Don't judge me by Barack Obama, because I did want that guy in office, but he lied to me. And in return, I'm not going to judge you based on Trump, because I think he is lying to you. I think right now you're where I was at the same point in Barack Obama's presidency. Ooh, things are hard, but they keep telling me they're about to be good. They keep telling me they're about to attend to all those things they said they were going to attend to. They are making it look so bad so people will submit to an AI system. Dude, maybe, broadly speaking. I don't know what the they is there. I don't know what the it is there. But I do think that they do want us to turn our brains off and hand over our decision-making to something they can program. Okay, now. Yeah, Obama betrayed us all. Finian is a progressive as far as I can tell. And if you are not, if you're a right-wing type person, please understand that this is how we feel about Obama. And if that surprises you, again, I beg you to reconsider where you're getting your news from, because they're lying to you about the people they're telling you to hate. And that's a concern. Folks, we're going to go over to This Space TV for the post-debate reaction. This has been WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. My name's Jake. Hey, by the way, when you're at No Kings this weekend, I'm going to ask you real quick. Wear nice clothes. Because if you get arrested, and also don't put your hands on anybody. I don't normally bother telling you that because we're progressives and we know that instantly. But I'll say it just for the record. Don't put your hands on anybody. And wear nice clothes. So that if people treat you roughly, what is happening is crystal clear. That's No Kings on October 18th. I assume you'll be there. Because we're Americans and we don't